Donald Trump went to Kenosha and he called the violence there domestic terrorism. And I think he's right, just based on everything we've seen across this country. When you have people walking up to, people who are eating at their diners and they're demanding they raise their fists and they're threatening people and their businesses, their homes, they're vandalizing their homes. They went to the condo of the mayor of Portland and they threw flaming garbage into the lobby of his, into one of the restaurants of his building. So anyway, we got a lot to talk about here. There's a lot going on, but far be it from me. I mean, look, I'm the guy who stopped going on the ground. I used to do it all the time, and so I'm sitting here thinking, we got to get somebody who knows what's going on. So we did, and we got a guy right here. What's your name? Who are you?
My name's Elijah Schaffer, but people call me slightly offensive, and I think we were talking about this earlier. People think that's my real name. Like they don't get like Timcast or is not your real name,
Yeah.
So it's like me, like, hey, Mr. Cass. So they always call me like, yo, Slightly, what's up?
Slightly.
But my mom didn't name me that.
It's not your Christian
name.
name.
I think the maiden name of my Korean family is Lee.
Really?
Slightly, yeah. Of course it is.
Perfect.
Slightly.
I love it.
So there's a lot of funny stuff to talk about. Nancy Pelosi was caught getting her hair done. They actually went into a closed down salon. Man, I hate these people. I hate to say it because I don't like to hate anybody, but we've seen it over and over again. The Democrats flaunting their own lockdown rules. The mayor of Philadelphia, right?
Yeah.
This mayor of Philadelphia locks down indoor dining, and then he goes
in Maryland.
And then he went to Maryland to go indoor dining.
Did you see De Blasio too in New York, who had just tweeted that everyone needs to wear a mask, was caught outside walking a dog with no mask?
Yeah, and they went hiking from us. Yeah, man, and it's just I don't even know what to say anymore to most people. Like we all know that the media is lying and the Democrats are lying. I mean, like you can criticize Trump. I say it all the time, but they're like Trump is encouraging violence. Like Trump has been calling for law and order nonstop for months. He's been screaming about it. But you turn on the news and they're like, that Trump calling for more violence. Joe Biden's campaign staff, they paid the bail fund for a lot of these people, and then Kamala Harris directly solicited this stuff. But the media narrative is just, yeah.
Yeah, but people are smart about this because if you look at even John MacArthur, pastor in LA, when he opened to back up his church, he said, "This is a protest." Right? This is a protest. It was very smart. And even with Trump messing around with that too, saying, oh, yeah, I know, we're just protesting peacefully out here. I think people see through the BS at this point. If you talk to the average person, it actually gives me hope. If you just kind of casually in a grocery store bring up with someone like, oh, hey, yeah, these masks, I mean, are they really working the way they're saying? People are like, man, I mean, I'm just wearing them because I've got to wear one. And when you talk to the average person, though, for the most part, they don't really know what's going on, but they know something fishy is going on at least. Like they seem to be suspicious of what's happening.
Well, I think when you see the mayor of Philadelphia saying you can't eat inside, it's dangerous, and then he looks at his watch and he's like, I'm going to go to Maryland and go eat inside. I don't believe them.
You saw Chicago? Where Chicago said they're going to give awards to people who can figure out how to creatively help people to dine outside during winter, and then another creator named Fleckos was like, yeah, it's called indoor dining.
That is very creative.
I get the whole I get the mask thing. I think a lot of people have it's the weirdest. The mask thing is the weirdest thing to me because conservatives early on were the ones championing masks when they were saying don't buy masks, and Fauci's on TV being like, nah, don't buy a mask, ain't gonna do anything. I remember Cassandra Fairbanks being like, I'm buying a mask, you guys are crazy. And now it's flipped. And now they're like, gotta wear a mask.
You think the right was pro-mask?
They
in the
were
beginning?
Pro-mask. It's a fact.
Who other than Cassandra was pro-mask?
You're gonna have to, off the top of my head, I'm not gonna be able to give you names other than Cassandra. But you go on Twitter, and when COVID was first happening, end of January into February, a bunch of conservatives were like,
was this the CPAC when everyone was freaking out about CPAC?
Dude, I got a message from somebody saying, "Yo, they just said don't get masks. You better go buy masks now."
They're contrarians.
No, I don't think it's about being contrarian.
No?
Maybe actually you're right.
Because I think that's why it flipped, yeah.
Because I'll tell you this. Nobody seems to have any idea what the mask thing is about. It's the weirdest thing to me when like Herman Cain died, right? That dude's awesome, by the way. I don't know if you saw that documentary, Uncle Tom. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it. I know the creator, but I feel bad. He's probably going to watch this, and I have not watched it yet.
Dude, Herman Cain, it was amazing. When he died, they said he had COVID and he wouldn't wear a mask. And I'm like, but that's not what they've been telling us. They're telling us to wear a mask so you don't get other people sick. Are they implying that he died, he had it, and he could have gotten other people sick? If that's the case, then why does it matter that he lost his life, that he died? It's because they're insinuating it was supposed to protect him while they're simultaneously arguing it's supposed to protect other people. And so that's what nothing seems to make sense. I see people on the right posting this saying, it's not going to protect you anyway. And I'm like, no, it's so you don't spit on people. It's like to reduce you spitting on people. That's just like very obvious. If you wear a mask, you won't spit on somebody.
But on a funny note, this isn't even scientific, but I love this YouTuber who walked around and asked people if their underwear protects them from smelling farts, and then he uses that as his argument against masks. I know it's stupid, but it made me laugh. It made me laugh.
Man, let's be real. It does protect you from sharts.
Yeah.
So if somebody's in my house,
it's very true.
Okay, but what I do want to say is about the mask. So for the first time out in Fort Worth, Texas, I went to an AMC, which I believe is a Chinese-owned company, and it said on the door that you cannot wear N95 respirators, neck gaiters, bandanas, or any type of face cloth covering. You have to wear certified full face coverings of the nose to the chin. You can buy them at the front desk, as according to the World Health Organization, not even the CDC. So I know that this mask debate is not just, I guess it's not just associated with one partisan side. I mean, people are kind of confused even on the business side of things.
I'm not concerned about masks, man, to be completely honest. Someone sent me a really cool mask, got a little beanie on it, and it fits really well. And I go to the store, I'll put it on, I take it off when I come out of the store. The bigger issue for me is that the curve's gone. The Sunbelt spike everyone was worried about turned out to be nothing. It's gone away. We're seeing it's like over. I mean, it's great. New Jersey just reopened indoor dining, 25%, and parts of California are starting to be completely reopened.
25%. Have you seen those studies? I mean, some people say it's 30, 60, 80% of restaurants, at least by 2021, are going to close permanently. I mean, 25%. These restaurants are having a hard time. I mean, I have friends in the restaurant business. I mean, these are very successful people, and I know firsthand that they have a hard time even sometimes reaching profitability with full capacity, especially if people aren't, let's say, cruising and buying a lot of alcohol, because they make a huge profit margin there. I mean, I don't know about you, but like, it's a slap in the face to open up at 25% capacity. Might as well stay closed and live on PPE or something.
Well, my point is, for the most part, that it's like it's over. They're reopening everywhere. We're seeing like some areas with no restrictions anymore, totally reopened. Like Florida, I'm told, is basically just reopened completely. A bunch of the Republican states never really fully locked down and won't anyway.
Yeah, Fort Worth is pretty. Do you know? Okay, so I'm not gonna out this because, so we have the bar scene went into like full speakeasy during this, and like there's some speakeasies. There's one local one which I can't talk about, but you get into the kitchen, and I think they cleared nearly between $500,000 to $1 million in alcohol sales in 1 month in a small speakeasy during the initial few week shutdown.
Nowhere else to go, huh?
Nowhere else to go, my friend.
All right. Well, anyway.
Strong start.
Great introduction. Thanks for joining us. If you haven't already, smash the like button. And don't forget to subscribe. We're live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. We'll have clips up every day. And we got a lot to talk about. But Elijah, we got to talk about the riots, man.
Oh, we have a lot to talk about because people have seen the clips, but they don't get a lot of the context.
You are on the ground.
Yeah, I unfortunately my life's been on the ground for 27 years. I've been on the ground watching things that I never thought I would see with my eyes, like face to face.
You were just in Kenosha?
I was in Kenosha for longer than I thought. And you know what's weird about that? Kenosha, people don't realize Kenosha's a little bit north of Chicago.
Yep.
I was actually in Chicago covering Black Lives Matter unrest when the riots broke out in Kenosha.
Interesting.
And I had to get a rental car and go drive up to Kenosha.
How long did it take you to get there? Like a half hour? 45 minutes?
90 minutes.
90, really?
It took me 90 minutes.
Where?
I don't know why. Maybe it was traffic.
Maybe. There was traffic?
Yeah, I mean it was there was toll roads and just weird stuff. So
were you on the south side of Chicago with the riots, or was it like downtown?
Well, specifically, I was in downtown. I was staying at the Hotel Chicago, which is not that glamorous, but it's all right. It's like a 3-star hotel. It's what you get in the media business.
It's like kind of gross looking, isn't it? Like on the inside.
Chicago always feels like somebody's gonna come out with like a Tommy gun and light you up. The hallways are always too dim.
No. They come out with like a Glock and they'll turn it sideways.
Well, it feels like you have 1930s, 1940s organized crime, decor and feel, but with like a modern like South Side gang kill you with a Glock kind of mentality.
Yeah. It's interesting because you used to have the Chicago accent, and it's kind of gone away now. So where it used to be, look, scene, they pull out their gun. Now it's just a regular guy being like, how do you do, sir? This is my gun. Bang. And you're like, oh, I'm dead.
Well, Chicago, what people don't realize too is there was a free R. Kelly protest going on there, which apparently he has a whole cult in Chicago that follow him like a god. But in order to calm the riots and the looting, you're talking about on every city block in Chicago right now, or at least last weekend that I was there, between 7 to 10 squad cars per block with about 20 to 30 officers posted, like a post-apocalyptic, just heavy police presence. Like, are they hiring people out of like their house? And I don't know where they got all these cops from. I really didn't even know.
So this was because of the looting in Chicago?
Yeah, because Lori Lightfoot and the commissioner decided that obviously they were getting bad PR. There's only a certain amount of looting and rioting that you can allow in your city.
There's a finite
It should
amount,
be
yes.
0, but all right.
I mean, I counted at least 3 buildings completely destroyed just next to my hotel.
Wow.
Really, really sad stuff. When you look at it, if you live in a big city, you know exactly the scene I'm talking about. Unfortunately, it's more cities than just Chicago. But what it was a complete occupation, a police occupation. So if you want to talk about less police, actually, by allowing the rioting, you're causing an increased police presence. If you had just stopped it in the beginning, then you wouldn't have all these police out. But I have never seen, I'm telling you, Tim, Lydia, I've never seen that many police in maybe a 12 city block area. It was basically the whole, at least half of the department would have just been there all day.
And that's not going to stop if the riots go to the neighborhoods. Chicago's huge.
And they did. Black Lives Matter went to Whitney, instead they went to Whitney High School in Chicago, and they marched to the neighborhoods yelling, and I'm not making this a race issue, they were pointing out, hey, look at those white people up there.
Yeah.
Okay, you come down here, you join us. And they started blasting rap music, which sounded pretty lit, actually. It's pretty good. Pretty good sound system they had, the mobile sound system. They started blasting it to wake up the neighbors, get them out, screaming at them, pointing left and right. You white folks, get down here. And there was a real racial tension in the suburbs. And I've seen this in Seattle, in Portland. I mean, we're seeing this across the country that even as we increase security in the cities, they are coming to our houses. And I'm not fear-mongering.
I've been saying it, man. It's earlier in the year, or even last year. I mean, 3 years ago, I was like, man, it looks like Civil War. And a bunch of people were saying things like, oh, calm down, everything's fine. And it wasn't like me just making things up. I reference this all the time. It was an article in The Atlantic saying, tensions are escalating, possibility of civil war is becoming real. And then a lot of these predictions that I made, they were not grandiose predictions, but they started coming true. Like, I was like, oh, man, I think we're going to start seeing major riots based on what we saw with Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown. This is going to keep happening. Then Eric Garner. And then people are like, oh, calm down. There's not going to be, racialized protest. And then, boom, there it goes. And then riots. And then it gets worse and worse and worse because the media fans the flames. But I'll tell you this. Part of what, leads me to where I am, speaking in terms of, not Wisconsin and stuff. I was in Wisconsin in, I think it was 2016. I think it was 2016. Where there was rioting because this dude got shot and killed. It was a black dude. And when I was there were a bunch of people yelling things like, get the white people. And an 18-year-old white kid got shot in the neck with a .22. He wasn't even part of the protest. He wasn't anywhere near it. This was in Milwaukee. He was just like crossing the street and someone saw him and shot him and he took a bullet in the neck. Fortunately, it was a .22, but it did hit his spine. And so again, look, this is not, I think the good people in this country know it's not about race, but there are certainly racists in this country who want it to be. The kid himself was saved by a black dude, who rescued him, and then the cops came in and brought him away in an APC. But there were a lot of racist people, and they were directly targeting people based on race. And so I made a video where I said straight up, it is dangerous to be here if you are at least perceived to be white or perceivably white. So I can't cover this anymore. And I made a video about it, and boy, did I get, crapped all over from so many lefties, like, you're racist, how dare. I'm like, a kid got shot in the neck, bro. And they were yelling, like, get him, get the white people. And so I was just like, having grown up in Chicago and seen, look, racism exists across the spectrum. It doesn't matter what your race is. You can be racist. The left tries to deny this. I was like, I can't be out here. You know, and a lot of people felt the same, felt similarly. And I've been told this by far left activists that white people shouldn't report in, you know, for POC events.
You know what? I'm going to share my experience. Hi, my name's Elijah. I'm a person of colorlessness. I will let you know I have a theory where all people of color, I think it's such a stupid phrase, honestly, people of color. I mean, I found out what people of color was in college because this was during like the rise of the social justice warrior, you know, back in the early 2010s. And I remember that I had used the phrase, the opposite phrase, which was to be colored people. And my professor gave me a C- and told me that was a pejorative, that was considered discriminatory. Now it's not on the ADL level, but I didn't know that. I actually didn't know. I didn't know that. I'll be honest. When they say that you're ignorant or not woke, I honestly, I just had heard that. And to be fair, I just spoke to some liberal people who use the same phrase recently, and they didn't know that had changed. And she told me it was a person of color. That was the first time I heard of it. And I said, that's fine. Okay, cool. I'll use that.
It's been offensive for a long time.
I just didn't know it though.
Right. The latest thing is that you have to say a person of disability, or like, you know, so you don't say a disabled person.
So you don't put the descriptor before. Because I mean, this is where I'm a bit uneducated here.
And so the social justice narrative is that they're people first.
Okay, so that's why people of color.
And people of disabilities and people of whatever else.
But see, this is where it gets weird to me because when you get down into it, you know, I said, fine, okay, like I'm okay with that. Okay, I just didn't know that. I'm going fine. I'm in college. I apologize, whatever. I got a C- or whatever on the paper for an ignorant mistake, according to her. And I'm just a young kid, and I didn't realize it.
What class was this?
This was this is upper division theology.
Like you're getting marked down on your grade because
this was the same theology class at Azusa Pacific University where she said she made us imagine what if Jesus was homosexual because of the leaning of the chest at the Last Supper, and even though not realizing that was an artwork, it was basically everything that's wrong with Christianity and theology in the modern era and postmodern era.
Anti-theology class.
It was like one of those theology class that is probably run by an atheist feminist that knows nothing about a personal relationship with Jesus Christ and claims to be a herald and a sponsor. It was like seminary. And I remember like I was there and I remember thinking that was weird because I actually, my degree is in molecular biology. That's my focus, and genetic engineering and stuff. And I remember thinking, person of color, that goes against all confines of science. We are all people of color. Like everybody is everybody, but I'm saying on a scientific term.
It's political, and it is, you know.
But that's where I first got. That's where I first started realizing that politics doesn't follow logic. It doesn't follow science.
Yeah.
It doesn't follow any sort of basis for reason, because I'm going, look, I'm freckled. I'm a person of concentrated color. Like, you know, I'm a lobster. Like if you look at me on the camera, I'm basically a hue of red or pink. Like, I mean, and it's just so weird when I go to these events, I don't think about race. I don't think about all these things until I go to these events is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. And I'm around these people that are, you know, fighting me saying you were racist or fighting the white people up there. And who's talking about race? Who's talking about division? Who's sowing the seeds of discourse and problems in our country? It's those who are heralding unification.
Well, they claim to be heralding unification. They're not. They're heralding division, like digitization or balkanization. They want to separate everybody. That's one of my biggest problems with everything that's been going on. So when you see, you know, like these riots, which are seeking to enforce through terror this ideology, then for me, it's the same issue, right? That's why recently I came out and said I was going to vote for Trump specifically for this reason.
Nice.
You've got. Look, there's only so early on when you see like the SJWs in culture and gaming and all that stuff, it's like, wow, we better do something about this. Now it's in government. Now the CDC, 10% of their employees wrote a letter demanding that the CDC declare a national health crisis of racism. And I'm like,
is that real?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I believe you. I wish you were lying.
It makes no sense. But we've seen cities across the country do it, declare racism to be a public health crisis. And then what do you do? Like, what are you supposed to do with that? Like, because it's true, will you discriminate against people now? Like, I don't know what you're trying to tell me by saying that's the case. It seems like it doesn't actually make any sense. It's just meant to be a play for power.
Right. And this is where I want to bring things up, because on one hand, I want to be really fair. And I think that there's a weird faction of the right wing that goes, we're all equal. Everybody's got an equal playing field. You're like, yeah. But also, too, like that kid in the wheelchair probably won't be as good at football as that 6'5", 280-pound freshman. I'm not predicting. I'm just going to say there are some things that either we're born with or even our families or socioeconomic status that in the left's terms do allow us and make us privileged in this is their words, not mine, into having maybe certain opportunities. Do I agree that America is the best place to overcome the disparaging differences and negativities in your own life? Yes. But I think that if we're going to have a conversation about, problems economically or culturally in the black community or issues with race relations between white and black people and why that exists based on certain crime stats or issues, I'm okay with that. And I think those conversations should happen, especially in areas of academia. But when you take the intellectually lazy response or approach and just say, well, it's that inherently all white people have internalized misogyny, imperialism, and racism.
That's just racism,
right? But I'm saying, like, and we all are somehow against black people. Black people therefore cannot be racist because racism is really discrimination with power. This whole critical race theory.
But look,
it's just BS.
The issue is that the left is overtly racist. They're avowed racists, and I'm not making this up.
No, I agree.
The Robin DiAngelo, what is that her name?
Yeah, Robin DiAngelo.
She's an avowed racist. DiAngelo.
So, yeah.
Sponsored by corporations.
Avowed. Let me show you some proof. Check this out. I got this tweet here from Rod Dreher. He says, Northwestern University Law School had a town hall meeting online recently. Everybody began with a ritual denunciation of themselves as racist. The reader, Professor Speta is not racist. He is a wonderful man, universally loved by students. It makes me sad that he is forced to say otherwise. I don't care whether he was forced to say it or not because I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know who the guy is. All I can tell you is this. Here's a text message where Emily Mullen, I don't know who she is, says she's a racist. Sarah Summervoid says she is a racist. And James Speta says he is a racist. They are avowed racist. Stop listening to their opinions.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this. When you see the Black Lives Matter sign pop up on Netflix, or I want you to go to the people who run the Boston Red Sox and say, so this person, here's a chapter in their book where they say they're a racist. Is it normal policy for you to build your marketing based off of overt racism? Why do you hate minorities? They straight up say right here they're racist. They're saying it to us.
Listen.
Why is anyone on the left listening to them?
Listen, this is where my mind, fireworks, just my brain explodes, because what I've always noticed too is it's the people lecturing us that are the ones going, hey, look, man, it's like this, being like, look, man, I want to talk to you about your violent tendencies and fixing them. I'm a murderer. I've ripped people's heads off with my bare hands, and I want to talk to you about how you're violent. And you go, wait a second. I'm not violent. And they go, have you ever been mad at someone? And you go, yeah. And they go, have you ever had a secret thought that you wanted to take someone's life, even faintly? And you go, not really. And they go, well, have you ever just like watched a movie and wondered how it's done? You go, yeah. You go, see, there you go. You're a murderer. And you go,
well, hold on.
No, I literally, no.
Wait, hold on. So look, I'm not going to read, actually, that's an ignorant thing to say. I should definitely read White Fragility. My understanding of it, and to be completely fair, is based off of critical analysis from some people.
You should make a show out of it and just do it with your audience. They would
I
would watch it with you.
I'd imagine that the video would get taken down for the things she says. Do you know that? So correct me if I'm wrong, but she says that she is uncomfortable around black people. Robin DiAngelo or whatever. She says that when she walks into a room full of black people, she feels uncomfortable. And that's, again, my understanding is coming from critical analysis from other people. But if that's true, I mean, she's an avowed racist. I don't understand that feeling. I grew up in an area with all these different people of different races. I don't feel uncomfortable around people.
But they know they're racist. See, you come up with a good point, and I can't out these people because now they have really high ranking level jobs in big corporations, and they may or may not have a relation to me. So I got to be careful here. But I've watched them. They're staunch liberals, staunch Democrats on the left.
They're not liberals.
Well, I'm just saying, like according to their own, they're self-avowed, self-described. And the things they say about minorities in the United States are things I've never thought to even say. And I'm going, no wonder why you think everyone's racist, because you have such racist thoughts about people that you think we all do. And for instance, I was in an elevator with one of these people, and these Asian people walked in, and this is their words, not mine. Do not take me out of context. And I'm going to use
don't quote them.
I'm going to using very subtle. I'm using
just paraphrase
translation. Yeah, translation of like, oh my gosh, like why they said why are Asians so like not aware of their social surroundings and so annoying. And I literally sat there and I went, they're standing right there. Like, how would you just say that out loud? Now, this person fights racism. They're against racism, everything. I'm going, well, no wonder why you're fighting racism whenever like an Asian just maybe coincidentally, like just maybe is in a conversation, ignores you, and you assume that all Asians are just ignorant of social spaces in public. That's a discriminatory thought across the board because not all Asians are first generation.
So
you know,
going back to the point you made where you're like the murderer says, I've ripped, people's heads off. See, the counterpoint I would have is if Robin DiAngelo came to me and she told me she was an avowed racist who is uncomfortable around, brown people or black people or whatever, and then she said, have you ever had this thought? I'd say, no. I can honestly say it's not the case. Maybe it's because I come from a mixed race family. No, I don't.
Wait, you mixed race family. What's your ethnicity?
Korean.
You're part Korean?
Yeah, that's what I said. Is
that why you're so smart? No, I'm just
kidding. You know what's really funny about this though? I was talking to a friend of mine, and we were talking about YouTube demonetization and like shutting down channels. And I was, they were saying it's political and they're targeting the right. And I said, I think it's kind of everybody. Like my mom makes math tutorial videos, and they came and demonetized her. And then my friend was like, why am I not surprised your Korean mom makes math videos? And the first thing I did was I texted my mom. I was like, this is amazing. And my mom was laughing about it. She loved it. She thought it was funny because we know it was supposed to be mocking the stereotype. You know what I mean? It was supposed to be.
It's good humor.
No. The idea when this person made this joke was not to insult me. It was to actually like insult the stereotype. It was like, there's this silly stereotype and here's a joke and we laugh about it.
And what I don't you know how I know that it's all BS? Because if we can still laugh at racist jokes towards white people, then people still understand that there's a difference between humor and culture and real actual hatred in your heart. Like if you can still make a joke about a white person and be like, like let's say I try to like dunk a ball and I miss or something and someone goes, yeah, nice jump, white boy. And I'm not like, I've had a black guy say that to me on a basketball court. Believe it or not, I play basketball sometimes, bad at it because I'm left-handed and I've compound fractured my left arm, so the ball always goes a little bit some weird direction.
Just turn your body slightly.
It's very, very, very odd, like the world right now, just in weird direction. But I will say this, that when someone says, "Oh, you can't jump," I don't think like, "Oh, there's a black guy that hates white people." I'm thinking he's just mocking it. Like there's tons of white people who jump in the NBA. Nobody thinks white people inherently can't jump, but there's just stereotypes like white people like bland food, white people don't dance. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
But like nobody's like, if I dance and it's funky and someone says, "Oh, you can't dance because you're white," I'm not offended.
But hold on, there actually is a good counterpoint to this. I see a lot of these lefties say things like white people have no culture, which is derivative of this.
Yikes.
You've heard this before though, right?
Yeah, I think it's stupid.
Like didn't Trudeau say something in Canada about like Canadians have no culture or something? Do you remember that?
I don't remember that right off.
I don't have it pulled
up. What
is
is Trudeau? Who even wants to remember what Trudeau says?
Seriously, good point.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point. But so deriving from these jokes, people take them seriously. And I think this is a perfect example of why you get people on the left who feel the way they do. They literally are racist. They are telling us, they are screaming in our faces. And people, look, man, with all due respect, this guy, Rod, who says, reader, Speta is not a racist. It's sad he has to say this. I'm like, no. Anybody who says they're a racist, I'm going to believe them. Listen, if you're that spineless to where you're like, you know the Star Trek thing, there are four lights?
No, enlighten me.
Captain Picard gets kidnapped by, it's an alien race, I kid you not, called the Cardassians. And they're yeah.
For real?
Yeah, they're really gross looking, so don't,
Do they have artificial butts?
No, they don't. It was well before the Kardashians. But anyway, they're torturing him, and he said there's four lights in front of him, and he's like, there are five lights. And Picard keeps saying, there are four lights, and like defying that they were trying to force him to believe this. It's very similar to what we've been seeing lately with the 2 + 2 = 5 thing. You've seen that? Yeah, so you have these people right now. If they're saying they're racists, I'll take their word for it. I'm not gonna argue games. I'm not gonna say, oh, they must have been forced to admit publicly that they were racist. I'm like, dude, if you want to come out and say you're a racist, I'll take your word for it. I don't want to have anything to do with you, and I don't think we should be listening to your opinions if you would say that.
Can we talk about this real fast? So there's an organization, it's enough years out. Have you heard for Teach for America?
No.
Okay, so Teach for America, I don't even know if it's a nonprofit or if it's a foundation, like political activist group. But essentially what they do is they try to reverse teaching and education disparities in lower income neighborhoods by essentially taking gifted college students who may be a little bit directionless, like, they don't have a lot of direction where they're going, into basically taking on a 1 to 2 year teaching assignment on an accelerated teaching credential in hard hit cities like Chicago, Detroit, Los Angeles, etc. And they do a few great things for you. Before I disparage them, they help pay back your student loans while you're there. That's great. They give you a stipend, they give you a salary, and they give you something to do for a couple of years while you don't know what you're doing, with a proper salary with medical. So it's not a bad organization. And it's very prestigious, actually. It's kind of hard to get accepted. Because of the fact that there's so many college students who are directionless, like they don't have any, they don't
So
have
like
any,
all of them, basically.
So it's like everyone
Well,
graduating.
Hold on. You got a degree in molecular biology.
Yeah.
And you're a journalist.
I
happened?
actually dropped out of grad school to do this.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be a scientist. You're letting down your scientist
I still get
parents
messages from med school saying, please come to our school. I did really well too. People don't realize this. I almost got a 4.0 in molecular biology. I did extremely well in my advanced courses, did research, worked on project for immunotherapy. I'm like, believe it or not, I know like my show, it's so funny. Like I purposely am just try to be very relaxed and normal like I am in real life. But when it comes to the books and math and things, some of us still do maths,
Well, so what's up with this program you're talking about?
Yeah. So I applied to it because I missed some of the application dates for some of my grad schools, and I was gonna just take a year off, and I was like, no, I'm gonna go do this program, and I had to go to the training before we started school. I got my credential, I did all the tests and blah blah blah, Constitution training, and I passed everything first time, and I'm ready to go, and then I have to go to this training in Los Angeles, and the first thing they made us do was to split off into groups of being the oppressed or the oppressor.
What?
Now, I want to tell you this. I think I was the only, I might have been the only white male,
The only
there,
oppressor.
But there was a group of people, I'm not even going to use heterosexual or anything, but it was basically just like said, if you like women and you're a man, or you're a woman and you like men, go to this group, etc. And it was weird that we're talking about our intimate life at a teacher's thing. Like I'm thinking like, I don't know about you, but when I'm in a room with strangers, I'm not interested in what's going on there.
Yeah.
You know what all of this is? It's an exercise in independent function of an individual. If you go into a building and they say, we are going to, here's a job, and we are going to negatively impact your life and your salary and your job if you fit certain criteria. And all you have to do is be like, oh yeah, I'm gay, sure, whatever. And then they leave you alone.
Well, not for Milo. He didn't get away with that. But I was going to say, like, what was weird is by the end of this, I was the only person in my own group. I was the ultimate oppressor. And I remember they're like, does anyone have any negative thoughts about this? And I said, yes, I have thoughts about this. What does this have to do with teaching high school students about cellular function? All I need to tell them is the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, and tell Juan to get his stop looking at inappropriate images during class on his phone. And that's I understand most of it's just class management, but when it gets down to it, I was realizing they were even talking about how there's certain words you can't use. You're not in control of the class. You're managing the class. Like there's all this weird SJW stuff, and I even hate that word. So 2017, but it's true. This was during that era, so I can use that 2016 era or whatever. And I sat there and I go, something is wrong with this country where I've come in to teach kids science, which is very indiscriminate. In fact, for a lot of time, besides people think there's all these debates and evolution, everything, not in real science. Science, everyone just goes, whatever, evolution, you disagree, agree, let's go do research. Let's go study cell development. Let's go study pathways and try to figure out new interferons, et cetera, and develop immunological therapies. No one's like, hey, dude, who do you sleep with? Like, no one ever asked me my whole degree.
To be fair, I think if I'm going to understand what the mitochondria is, I need to know if you're banging dudes. It's just logic.
You didn't know what's going on in the powerhouse of the body down there. But like, I'm just thinking like I'm going. I remember sitting there so I called NPR. And I talked to, I think it was Larry Elder, and I remember that's kind of how I got started.
Larry
in this.
Elder,
really?
One of the people. Is that his name?
Yeah, I
In
think,
NPR?
he's at NPR.
He might have been at one point.
Oh wow.
Maybe I have the wrong person. I could be wrong. You could look that up. But it was one of the big guys, and he took me on, and I complained about it publicly and said, I cannot. This was during the time of outrage where people were just starting to wake up. Like I'm going, I cannot believe I'm trying to get into science and be a professor and go in this direction, and I'm being asked about who I sleep with. I'm being ostracized because of the color of my skin. I'm in this program because I did well. I'm in this program not like boasting, but I'm here because I have high marks. Because I'm overqualified. I'm here. I'm a blessing to this program. Like not being prideful, but meaning. I'm actually looking at this, not the program, like, you know what, I would love for a year to invest in some high school kids' lives, junior high kids' lives, pour into them, teach them about life, science, help them get into some good colleges. But no, I ended up quitting the program because they demonized me over a weekend experience, literally. And then here's the best part. At the end, they had this weird, these really weird exercises that they do, like these weird like group. Have you been a part of any of these?
No, I look, I didn't go to high school.
Okay, you really?
I didn't go to high school at all.
Do you have a GAD?
No.
Good. Hey. Hell yeah. That's awesome.
Dude, I was a teenage anarchist. F the system. I don't play by your rules. I do what I want when I want. That was it.
Can we talk about the black clad people on here? Can I mention them by name? Is that
Antifa?
Okay, good. I didn't know if messes.
I'm like, what you talking?
I didn't know if it messes with your live monetization.
Oh no, I want to. We're gonna talk about the riots in a second.
I'm just saying with the Antifa. Hey guys, if you're watching this and you're tearing down your city, burning it down, just so you know, you can become a successful YouTuber just like Tim Pool. That was just my PSA to the.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, they're not burning down their own cities.
Oh yeah, they're burning down other people's cities.
That's right.
No, okay, we'll get to that. But I was gonna say, so they had this weird Me Too-esque exercise where we had two separate groups split up, and one group got in a circle and we closed our eyes, and they had the other group walk around the circle and touch on the shoulder people who they agreed met this question. So they'd ask something like, "Who changed your experience this weekend?" And people would walk up and touch the person with their eyes closed shoulder. Very creepy.
Yeah.
You know what I would do? And this is part of the reason why I didn't end up going to high school. It's because I challenged authority no matter what, and I preyed upon their assumptions. I was 14. If they did an exercise where they were like this,
close your eyes and let strangers touch you.
You know what I would do? I would start making noises and go, "I don't like to be touched," and I have stories of when I went to high school for about 2 months, and then ultimately they were like, "This kid can't be here."
It's like freshman year, 14.
Yeah, so
this is interesting.
They realized I could not be in this school because all of the loopholes, all of the cracks in the system. I found all of them, and I preyed upon every assumption, everything they did, so that they could not actually. Like I found predicaments to put them in where they were like, "What do we do?" Like the rules don't apply. Like what? There's just funny circumstances where they would try and challenge me on things. And then finally, one teacher just told me to F off and like gave me an F on it's a long story, but I tried preying upon the assumptions of one of the assignments by creating a circumstance in which he couldn't call me a liar. And then ultimately, he just took a blank sheet of paper and put an F on it and gave it to me. Oh my gosh. That was essentially what happened. It's a longer story, but
see, I like that. That actually, so I got expelled from high school, and then I almost got expelled the second time. So I'm proud of you for not even going, because it was kind of not worth it. The only thing I wish I had those kind of cojones or whatever when I was in high school, but I do know that I did. When I was about to get expelled for the second time from my second high school, they asked me why I crossed the line. And similarly, I said, I didn't cross the line. I was smart enough to bend down and see that it was flexible wire. And I grabbed it and I stretched it further past anyone had ever gone, but I'm still on the other side.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Anyway, look, so I bring this up to make the point.
Yeah.
A lot of people I know went to school, got that indoctrination, or at least a little bit of it as
They're
it
like
was
drones.
As it was creeping in. And so I remember the reason I didn't go to college specifically was that I read an article from an economist who said, if you go to any investor and say for $40,000 over 4 years, you will owe $40,000 plus interest, they'll laugh in your face. And so I was like, wow, that doesn't seem to make sense. College seems to be a waste of time. That's why I was like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to take on debt for this nebulous concept.
Guess how much I have left?
Debt? Oh, what do you got?
92,000 left.
Oh,
Good luck.
Yeah, well, like, you know what though? Luckily, we're in COVID, so it's currently
Frozen.
But
Yes.
I will say I'll pay that off pretty soon. But I'm just gonna say at the end of all this, when people asked, when at the end they had a question of whose opinion like changed your mind the most about the world this weekend, which is weird. We had to have a weekend training. A lot of people me too'd me in that moment, you know.
Me too'd you?
Meaning they touched me while my eyes were closed. They touched you. And I don't mean that. It wasn't like a glory moment. It was actually a pathetic moment where I was going, oh my gosh, these are college educated people who probably come from decent universities. You have to have a certain grade cutoff, etc. And I did nothing but slightly brought up a little dissension, a little bit of adversity to the mainstream opinion. And this affected you. This is not a good program. This is not helping people. This is just a weird, probably government funded program that I don't want to be a part of. And I remember just thinking like, man, this is when I actually really woke up to it. I'm going, I don't want to be in the system because the system is going in a weird direction. I don't want to be a part of educating people if educating people becomes indoctrination. And I know that some people are like, well, you know, this sounds like 4-year-old talking points. This was literally 4 years ago. This is 4-year-old talking points.
This is important primer for what we're going to get into next.
Yeah, I'm just saying like this is what happened. And this is what got me to like, okay, I'm not doing that anymore. And I was lost for a little bit until I realized what was the source of the problem. It's the culture wars.
Yeah. So this is it's been building up for a long time. The media plays a big role in it, partly because of, I talked about this too. I actually had an argument with Peter Boghossian. Are you familiar with Peter? He's a associate professor of philosophy, I believe, at Portland. Is Portland, right?
I am not sure.
I don't know. Last name sounds similar, but
he's one of these so-called squared hoaxers who tricked a bunch of scientific journals into accepting garbled mumbo jumbo
on the feminism and stuff.
They rewrote a chapter from Mein Kampf, but put in feminist buzzwords, and it got approved or something like that. Anyway, we were having a conversation before about whether this started in the universities or started with the media, and I think a lot of what he's saying is true, but I think it only broke into the mainstream because of social media algorithms. The general idea, to simplify it, because I talk about it kind of a lot, is if you make a video, or article, no, YouTube doesn't work so much this way, but on YouTube, on Facebook, if you make a video about police brutality, it'll get 1,000 shares. If you make a video about racism, 1,000 shares. If you get a video about racist police brutality, it gets 1,000 plus 1,000 shares. So, you know, X plus Y. So what ended up happening was companies realized that what was making them the most money was mashing as many keywords as possible into an article. Thus, you get these ideas becoming predominant, you know, very mainstream in 2008. And it was like 2006 when it started. It was, I think it was 06. So, you know, it was around the Facebook time when people were finding out they could monetize the Facebook news feed. And then by like 2010, you can see all the data in LexisNexis, the hockey stick of inclusivity and white fragility, and all these phrases are skyrocketing because they realized mixing keywords, like there's an article from Vice where it's like black trans women of color fighting for Black Lives Matter against police brutalities proves the patriarchy is real. Like they just jam it all in there because what happens is the algorithm shares it with more people. And so that leads to where we're at now. And I think one of the reasons it really does, in my opinion, describe your experience. But I do think the ideas had to exist first. So yes, the universities. But my opinion on this is the media, because you take a look at what's going on right now. Police brutality, right? Did you know that there was a period where like the most shared videos on Facebook were all police brutality?
I believe it. I mean, even watching like cops and stuff, people always loved it when the police got down with the suspects. I mean, they did.
I think the reason for it is that anger is the principal motivator for sharing. It's the most prominent motivator. So people get mad, they share things. When people are happy or inspired, they share them a lot less. When people are sad, they definitely don't share. So anger is the number one emotion that drives content sharing. So you make a video about, you know, police brutality, people get angry about it and they share it. This is not okay. And that drives the narrative we have today, which is skewed. And then the mainstream media, who's been just eating the refuse of the Facebook algorithm for a decade, are sitting there in the newsroom believing all of this garbage is real life. You look at Don Lemon's opinion from several years ago. Remember when he said he was talking about Ferguson, I think, or no, it wasn't Ferguson. He was talking about like Black Lives Matter and about how they have to pull their pants up or something.
Yeah.
Don Lemon made a bunch of racist stereotypes about black people on CNN live.
Yep.
And his opinion's completely inverted today because it's only getting worse and worse and worse. Then what ends up happening is you're talking about this college stuff. And I'm reminded of that viral video. Did you ever see it where the guy goes, "But you're a white male"? Remember that?
Sounds like 4,500 videos I've seen.
No, it's the famous meme where the guy's got like really greasy, long black hair.
Oh, Skrillex.
And he's watching
yeah.
guy. Yeah.
Skrillex.
Yeah. Well, you know. awful
Can
name.
we bring that up? Can you bring up a picture of that, Lydia, or something? Can I see this person?
I can show it to you after the fact. but
Anyway,
you can look at
there's
it.
like a conflict at a college, and he yells, "But you're a white male!
You're effing a white male.
Yeah, you're an effing white male!" And there's like a bunch of moments like that, and that's where this fractured ideology was emboldened and empowered by these algorithms, broke into the mainstream. We talked about it a few years ago, like, oh, these dang old college kids acting all crazy, huh? And now they're in positions in government, and now
They are the real world.
Yeah, now they're in their 30s and they're running nonprofits and they're infecting.
So this is the first I'm hearing of the fact that you know, because obviously you predate me by like just a couple years, but still you've been in this game and now you're running it. You're like, this is pretty crazy. You're saying that the algorithms are almost what drove the intersectional push, which is kind of in line with the scriptures, the Bible scripture says, not that money is the root of all evil, but the love of money is at the root of all evil, which probably transcends multiple cultures. But I believe the Bible is authoritative in that source, in that you're saying that this is like basically very important.
I'll tell you.
They love money, so then they bring us this doctrine. This doctrine moves in, it brings more money. So all at the source of this is somebody saying we're going to get rich off of effing over the entire country, let alone the whole world.
They don't look at it that
Yikes.
way. I think a lot of these people are ignorant. Some of them know what they're doing. There's a prominent site that collapsed recently in the past year or so. When they started, they were a libertarian pro Ron Paul website because that was really popular on the internet. And then they realized it's not like some dude sitting in a room and he goes, here's a map of the algorithm. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to promote this stuff to make money. What happens is they hire 10 people. One guy writes intersectional stuff. One guy writes police brutality. One guy writes about science. And then all of a sudden they start realizing intersectionality does the best. They're not looking at this person being like, okay, intersectionality articles are doing great. What happens is they say, have you seen John's articles? They're getting like 1 million views. It's great. Let's have him get a team together and hire some people. John, an SJW, then hires more SJWs, make a unit. That unit starts getting way more traffic and way more views. And many of these companies did not actually realize what was happening. Some of them did and tried to capitalize on it, and it didn't work because they tried telling people, we want you to write this. And the people would be like, I'm not writing that garbage. And then it wouldn't work. The companies that worked naturally just hired those who got the traffic. And this created a big bubble of empowered media personalities who were woke, far left. And now many of them have moved up in these companies, and now they're 30 or 34 or whatever. And now they're hiring young people who agree with them. And now the New York Times, for instance.
They were raised on their milk, basically. And that's what I'm seeing. And the really interesting thing is about this whole intersectional push and this weird dogma is how quickly it's become mainstream, which is really interesting because, I have a theory here. People always ask, people like Alex Jones or Milo Yiannopoulos or Laura Loomer, like, why did they get taken out? Why did Gavin McInnes get taken out? And my theory is this, I'm not calling them fringe, okay? And some of these people are my friends, and so I'm not speaking poorly of them. I'm just using the left's, using them as an example here. They go, okay, these are the fringe guys on the right, and the left says that. So if we can take these fringe guys out that we think are extreme in our matter, once you take out the entire perimeter of the left's idea of extreme, it now makes the perimeter of what's far right much more mainstream right. And that being said, is where people like myself then get called far right or extreme right when I'm like, hey, I'm actually, you should know, and this is a common rhetoric. It's like, actually the far right really actually hates me. They're some of the biggest spammers, and they're stupid alt accounts and their avatars. They're not even brave enough to have their own profile picture, and yet they're going to save the whole country from immigrants or whatever. But I'm gonna say they hate me. But what's weird is that as we've seen the perimeter keep getting taken off of the right, so that now just the small sliver of the mainstream is now considered the furthest right.
Right.
We haven't seen that on the left. And what's even weird is we've actually seen the glorification, the financing of the perimeter to where the perimeter on the left keeps going further and further out. So what used to be far left actually just 3-4 years ago is actually pretty moderate. And now you have people talking about the fact that, I mean, realistically speaking, they're saying that, the army and the military is racist because anytime a white man has, command over a black man, that's systemic racism. And you're going, holy hell, do you not understand how the military even works? These are voluntary recruits. These people, if you know anything about the military people, they don't care about your sexual orientation, race, creed, color. They're all about camaraderie and brotherhood, etc. And so, like, what I've seen is this weird intellectual warfare where now the establishment or the real mainstream right, we're all like essentially right-wing terrorists according to the establishment media, and the left has this free pass to write articles that at some point I don't even know if they're serious.
Well, so this is where it gets funny. Alex Jones used to talk about something, I could be getting this wrong, problem, reaction, solution. It was something I used to see on the internet way back in the day. The idea being that, look, these Illuminati types, they're going to create a problem and then once the people react, they come in and they're the solution. I used to remember seeing that stuff on the internet and the libertarian web and the conspiracy stuff. The idea being the government sparks the issue and then only they can solve it, vote for them. They're literally posting that right now, the left, about Trump. The left, Rachel Maddow, for instance. I mean, think about it. There's a video from a group called Juice Media. It's Rap News, and I think this one is number 6. And it's about Julian Assange and Cablegate back in 2010 when they made this. In their parody, they satire Alex Jones saying, we've got to stop the rise of the commie Nazi fascists. It's like one of the jokes in the video, and he talks about Hillary Clinton being evil. Quite literally, he says, "Hill dog, your lies are blatant." And he says, the Nazi fascists are taking over. That was Alex Jones. That's how people viewed him in 2010. Now, those same people who think that the fascists are coming, they like Hillary Clinton or whatever. They're screaming that Donald Trump is creating the riots across the country so that you must vote for him. They're literally pushing the old school internet conspiracy line about the government creating problems so only they can solve it. The whole thing is it's weird.
What strikes me the weirdest is the fact that we constantly get accused of being exactly what the people are that are accusing us. And I mean this very thoroughly speaking. What people maybe don't notice, I run a show called Slightly Offensive. You can find it on YouTube. It's just called Slightly Offensive. And I focus a lot on getting my own proprietary content. I think that a lot of people don't do that anymore. And I don't mind, but I like to go out. It's something I enjoy doing. It's a crazy world that people in media still do what they enjoy. But I go out and I capture a lot of my own footage at riots, at protests, at things, and I commentate on them. And I have 2 separate parts. On Twitter, I'm myself, Elijah Schaffer. I try to stay unbiased. I try to just give video reports for other news outlets, etc. I license my footage. But on my own show, we're going to let the S word hit the fan.
Gloves off.
Yeah,
Gloves
we're
are
going to
off.
go.
Family
We're going to
friendly.
go for it. But now it's very kosher. It's very kosher. I always say that it's about a 14 plus audience. If you're 14 and older, you can watch it. That being said, when I look at this, I can be using my own footage that I captured, meaning I'm not like a conspiracy theorist. I'm not ripping footage. I'm not manipulating it even. You can't even say that I'm a propagandist. This is my footage that I was there, that I risked my life to get. And in many ways, I have risked my life to get this footage. I'm pretty proud of that, meaning there are moments where I thought I'm going to die. And it wasn't so I can get clicks. I'm going, but if America doesn't see this, if I don't run towards this, they're not going to see the truth. And in my mind, I'm not, it's not, no one's like, oh, it's not like a grift. Like if I get this, I get 1 million views. Cause I have a wife, I have a family. My mom just died a couple months ago. I can't let somebody else die in my family. My family's broken over this. And so when I'm in these situations, in these race riots, dealing with my own tragic death in my own family, I've been married a couple years, taking care of my wife, and I see something happening and I'm going, I've got to run to that. I am definitely thinking just this needs to come out to America. And then I put that footage, oftentimes censored, to meet YouTube or big tech guidelines. I keep my commentary kosher. Anything that isn't, censors bleep it out. We bleep it out so that it's just like normal broadcast television. And then my video gets age restricted, it gets taken down, my account gets throttled, they tell me I'm borderline, etc. And I'm going, wait a second. My opinions aren't even partisan. When I'm there and I look at the stuff that happened in Kenosha, the altercation between the young man and those other individuals, when I'm there and I filmed it and I witnessed it and the other angles are my friends and we scoured over this footage and we looked at it and we came to a conclusion, that's actually journalism. That's not just commentating. That's not just editorial. If I have 4 or 5 angles and individuals and we discussed and we talked and we come to a logical conclusion off of what we saw and where we were, why are we conspiracy theorists? Why are we the ones that get discredited? But yet journalists like the New York Times and Washington Post, the night of those events, which I'm going to be careful the way I word it because I know these algorithms, the way they try to pick up these words to just throw these streams off. When I was there and I watched that Twitter curates at the top of the feed, here's what happened. And it's from articles who had not yet contacted the journalists who were there, who did not quote us, who, from what I saw, were not on the ground in that moment. It makes you wonder, are we really the extreme people? Are we the conspiracy theorists?
Hold on.
No.
We talked about this the other day. Radicalization. What does that mean, right? People have become radical, right? Brian Stelter recently was on C-SPAN and someone called in saying that CNN was the enemy of truth. They've lied hundreds of thousands of times. And then he says, well, this year there's been a lot of radicalization against the media. Okay. Is it radical to want borders for your country?
No.
Of course not. It's the way it's always been. Is it radical to want a strong military?
No, absolutely not.
It's literally the way it's always been. Is it radical to want to lower unemployment and make sure that the people of your country have jobs before immigrants?
Sounds good to me.
That's actually the way it's always been. It was only 10 years ago the Democrats were for all of these things as well. In fact, Bernie Sanders was for this only a few years ago. They've gone so far off the rails that they're so far left now, they're looking at regular people screaming radical. Quite literally like Brian Stelter. And that's mainstream news. So there's good news here. And I want to talk to you about the riots too, because that was actually really interesting what you were saying about what's going on. Because I like ragging on the media. So when I look at the far left and how far they've gone, I don't think they make up the majority of people. This fringe group.
I've heard it's 8%. I've heard it's 8% of the left.
The Hidden Tribes report says 8%. It may be a little bit bigger because that was a couple years ago. So I'm wondering if you've got. I'll do it this way. You've got mainstream society. And the left starts pulling further and further left. And it's possible that we get dragged or it breaks off. If the far left moves so far left that regular people become confused by what they're doing, they become fringe weirdos. And all of these big mainstream companies and the NBA, for instance, their ratings are in the gutter, 40% down. You see this?
You know what? I have. And unfortunately for them, I've never watched them because it is a grift. I mean, these guys they've always complained. They're always getting hyper political, making millions of dollars talking about.
Not all of them.
Well, but okay, yes, not all of them. But I've seen that. I'm kind of anti-elitist. Like I don't like. It's not that I'm against sports, and I love all American pastimes, etc. I'm glad people have pastimes. I just don't like it when wealthy people who live very comfy lifestyles lecture America. I've never been comfortable with that.
For sure, they're not working class. But the what I'm seeing with this idea of getting woke, going broke, it's not a universal law. There have been movies that have been woke that have done really, really well, but they're not authoritarian woke for the most part, right? The example I like to give is Into the Spider-Verse, where they have Miles Morales, Afro-Latino Spider-Man, and they don't make race the point of the story like these woke, crappy movies do that end up bombing. So I think this intersectionalism, this weird cult-like behavior is isolating. It's making regular people say, I don't want to be a part of this when they're forced into it. And I think it's possible a lot of weak-willed people may just be like, whatever you say and buy into it. But I think America is built upon generations of defiant individuals. I think about it this way. Our culture is very individualist for a very simple reason. The people who left the European countries to come here were, I would rather land a boat on an empty shoreline and just start foraging for food than deal with you. And we're the descendants, not all of us, because part of my family didn't come here until actually, I think all my family didn't come here until the early 1900s or the late 1890s. But America has been culturally built off of those ideas, and they don't just go away. So we are very staunch individualists. I imagine most people are going to say, leave me alone or else. So when you start getting the things you're talking about, where they're like, tell the world you're racist, eventually people are going to say, I'd rather go live in the woods and build a farm than deal with you and your weirdo.
And they are.
I know.
And they are. People are leaving the cities in droves. I am from Los Angeles. If people cannot tell from my slightly mixed voice that sounds slightly lispy, slightly homosexual, and also Valley Girl together. That's what's called growing up in Los Angeles and hanging around a lot of liberals, but thinking for yourself.
Where's the surfer dude in there?
The surfer dude was the pot I smoked for like a decade. I mean that's where I sit there and I get confused sometimes. It's just a lot of pot in just a few years. But I will say this. Being there, California people have their own way of speaking. I'm very much a California person in a lot of ways. And I always found it really funny because there's this group of individuals who got really mad at me for, do you know who Jesse Lee Peterson is?
Yeah, of course.
Amazing. How he goes, gay. I just think the guy's so funny. He really is a funny guy. And he, I was on his show and he's like, he always asks questions in this dichotomy. Like it's for entertainment purposes. Like, do you love your wife or do you hate your wife or something? And you're like, oh, that's a weird question, but like, he goes, are you like a conservative or are you a Republican conservative? And I was
Which
like,
one?
Like, it's not even the, hey, what's your political standing? I said, I'm a California conservative, which to people who live in California knows what that means. It means I hold conservative values, but I also live around really interesting individuals and I'm the minority. And I've learned how to work, operate, eat, drink, and be friends with people who think vehemently different than what I think about the world. And I'm okay with that. It means nothing. It's not a complicated saying. It's just like California conservatives always say that.
Yeah, respect that. That's cool.
Yeah, I know, but this group of people got like super, super mad that I said this. But I think that there's this whole part of America that is being ignored where whether you would call it like a respectable Democrat or a California conservative, there's this whole civil group, like the main swath of America, that is somehow being dejected from the conversation, like you said, about people being called extreme. I've never been considered an extreme person. I never in my life have considered my politics to be extreme. I run into, you probably run into extreme people online too. They're there and they exist and they have the right to exist. I'm against censorship. I think people have the right to be extreme as long as they're nonviolent. I think they have the right to have radical ideas. I think that it's great.
Even communists.
Yes, yeah. I do.
Especially communists.
But I also think too that like this idea of the extreme people kind of taking the narrative and batting it against each other where I know the far right and it's like 200 people. Like that exists, and
seriously.
And 6 prominent ones, by the way. This is like 200 main accounts that I know of that are far right. And so it's really weird that when the left even says, oh, you're far right, I'm like, no, I know the far right. That's like, I can literally tell you what accounts, I wouldn't do it, but I could show you what accounts are far right. There's only a few of them. But because they have scapegoated us as that, I just have to be careful on the right that we're not forgetting that there's this whole swath of people that are feeling very much alienated and homeless from what they knew to be the Democratic Party. And that's why I don't want to call it Republican. I don't want to call it conservatism because a lot of these people aren't conservative, but
they think they are now, though.
But the right wing, but see, that's why we have to be careful not calling them conservatives. They're not conservative. They're liberal.
I know.
But the right wing now includes, this is the weirdest thing, and this is where I'm going to get so much
flack.
Yeah, flack for this from those weird anonymous accounts probably. But I'm okay to say this, is that the right wing has become so umbrella inclusive that it is now includes conservatives and liberals, even if people don't like that, because it's become the common sense party essentially.
I sat down with Glenn Beck and we disagreed on pro-life versus pro-choice. At the end, we shook hands and said, "Hey, it was great.
Great
glad
chat.
to have me." And we disagree, and I don't like it was the exasperation was kind of funny because I was like, I really think the best way to put it is we have a different, like, there's an ethical barrier between us, but we recognize we should sit down and just keep talking to like figure out each other's worldviews.
Yeah, but why mock the moderates? And I think that's what I come down to is that I want to acknowledge that there's extremists on the left and the right. It's just that the right wing extremists are still fringe. And that's the key thing, is they try to make it seem like those people that are right-wing establishment are fringe and extreme. It's like, no, there are some right-wing extremists. What I'm upset about is not the fact that you guys want to call out extreme right-wing people. I'm mad that while calling out right-wing extreme people and talking about the negativity of who they are, you then put on a pedestal left-wing extremists. Like, if you're going to fight against extremism, you've got to be consistent, because that's what frustrates, I think, the average individual, and why more people are defecting towards, I wouldn't even call them Republicans or right wing, but they're becoming Trump supporters or America First. They're getting behind the America First mentality.
You're looking at one.
Yeah, exactly. Is that you're just going, I literally can tell you this. I don't agree with everything on the right. I may not be as the most conservative guy that lives maybe in, some southern state or whatever. But I can tell you that whatever this insane militant communist faction is that has hijacked what they're calling the Democrat Party and is quickly seemingly becoming the establishment Democrat Party is just detrimental. It's toxic for the future of our country, and I don't want any part in it.
Alec, you could not possibly have a more... So I'll put it this way. Let me start over. If you took the Democrats and you looked at where they were in the last election, and then you take someone like AOC or any member of the squad, and you actually map their personal policy positions they've espoused and their calls for unrest, like Ayanna Pressley, they are so far left, you can't even call it radicalization. It's something it's extremism. It's like... If AOC really is the new face of the party, which a lot of people have said, maybe she isn't, but she's got 8.5 whatever million followers.
It's crazy.
You go from a Joe Biden saying, Barack Obama's administration, they called Obama the deporter in chief because he deported so many people. Now you've got Biden saying moratorium on deportations, decriminalizing border crossings. I think Biden may have said that. I could be wrong about that, but he's talking about a moratorium on deportations, and I'm like, that's a 180 from Obama. They've convinced Biden to adopt radicalized positions. So it's a fact. And Joe Biden comes out recently and says, do I look like a radical socialist? And I'm like, no, you look like a bumbling old man. But you've come out in the debates with these insane fringe positions that nobody wants except for a tiny fraction of screaming people. And that's what's coming into mainstream politics.
But that's what strikes me as interesting, because what I realize is this, and this is where I think I know why this has happened. Okay, because what happens is that people lose touch with reality. And I know this because when I watch influencers, right, and I watch people, I will see, and I talked to Ezra Levant at Rebel about this, about how a lot of influencers on the right get pulled towards extremism. Because this is I'm going to make a point about the left here. What the extreme fringe right does is they essentially try to make you seem like, hey, we're the real right. We're the real cool people. We're the Puritans. We know what's really going on. Without us, the country is effed. And everybody else is a sellout and a fake. And here's the thing. We might have some weird ideas about certain races and people, but just listen to this. Everybody else is selling out the country. And if you really want to save it, you got to come closer and closer to our ideology. And then you share a couple ideas that might agree with what they agree with, because take any random sample of people, anybody might agree with something you say. And then they start getting mad that you don't agree with everything they agree with, because clearly some of their ideas are extremely toxic. And then they demonize you. So what happens is someone could have 200,000 followers on Twitter, but then they have 2,000 of these like random accounts, multiple are run by the same person, flood their inbox, go on there. If you're a small-minded person who's out of touch with reality, you think, oh my gosh, everybody wants me to go towards these extreme ideas. My base. It's like,
right,
no,
they're bombing you.
You have 200,000 followers. These are 2,000 people who you can look don't even follow you. It's not even 1%, even if they did follow, if you're following. This is not who you should be listening to. This is mob mentality. These are extremists who are trying to push you into this cultic idea that what you're doing is somehow ruining the country unless you follow them. Now, I know that. You know that. You people who work on the right that are smart know that, or left, that extremists aren't the status quo. But if you are easily manipulated, like Joe, somebody who's bumbling, mentally incapacitated in some ways, these people are dangerous in the fact, not about violently, intellectually, they will take advantage of
this.
You.
Is literally what's happened. The Democratic Party uses Twitter as their public opinion barometer. So all of the fringe extremists on Twitter who will bombard one of these journalists or these politicians with crazy opinions, they think people must want this.
Exactly.
And regular people aren't on Twitter. It's like 22% of the country is active on. No, I think it's less than that. I think I forgot what the number is.
Do you want to know what? Do you want to
let
me put a better number on that? I went on Social Blade, just to see if I grew a little bit or whatever. It's this website. This is not impressive. I'm not boasting about this, but it said I'm like number 40,000 or whatever on Twitter. And I'm not even very big. So if you just took that swath of like 50,000 people that are like in the hundreds of thousands and verified to millions, that's 50,000 people out of a population of what, 350, 370?
328 or something.
Yeah, okay. So over 300 million people, you're talking about like 50,000 people deciding the discourse of the whole country.
Right, yeah.
Maybe take out half of those of people who probably don't engage politics online.
Yeah,
so like 25,000 people are literally creating the entire narrative for what's the whole country. And I mean, not that I'm not influential or anything. I'm just pointing out the fact that like 25,000 people out of 300 million plus sort of dictating what the news is, what goes on shows, etc. That's less than 2%.
And when Donald Trump then invokes law and order and regular life, regular people, just like normalcy, that's what they're trying to do with Biden. That was one of the arguments, that Joe Biden invokes this idea of normalcy. It's like, remember the Obama years when life was regular? Vote for Biden and it might work. And they say Donald Trump's the cause of all of this. It's not true. But Donald Trump says law and order, so you're getting that split.
Yeah, when you got fined for not getting medical insurance, like that was normal.
Yeah. Yep. So look, I think we'll see how this plays out. But the bigger issue, the bigger question I have, now that we're in the gist of it, let's talk about these riots. Have you heard about what they're calling the Red Mirage?
No.
Did I mention that to you earlier?
No, you
so
didn't.
what they're saying is that Donald Trump will, the Democratic analytics firm said Trump will landslide on November 3rd. Democrats said that. And then over the next week, Biden will win because of mail-in voting.
Oh, I saw your tweet.
Yeah.
This is a tweet, right?
Well, I did a whole video about it.
Okay, I saw something on that.
And so here's what.
Wow.
Right. So this is a guarantee for disaster, because if on election night they say Donald Trump has won every state, but California, Oregon, and Washington, people are going to be like, he did it. Trump supporters are going to say he did it. And then a week later, they're going to come back like, oh, by the way, Biden actually won. They're going to be like, no, he didn't. I saw it. I watched. They said Trump won. They showed he had all the states. There's no way. This is not real. The Biden supporters are going to be like, you're not counting the votes properly. Biden won. And when both sides are adamant that they've won, what happens?
Okay, I'm going to give, this is where I give my live stream addendums so that we don't get you busted here. I never sponsor violence. I don't promote violence, whatever, yada, yada, whatever else I have to say to not get fired or get this live stream taken off. But, bringing into this, we are in a clear factionary state. There are two sides in a powder keg waiting for somebody to set off. And I want to remind people how the Civil War started and how civil wars do start. Civil wars, and we were talking about this earlier, aren't usually what people think, where it's like, oh, everybody's blowing each other's brains
They're marching.
out.
Red versus blue, marching down the street.
Why do you think there's like, oh, this battle, or there's a battle of Gettysburg? Like, why do we have these like famous people, or Battle of Iwo Jima? Like, why is there famous battles? It's because war is strategy. There's specific places and regions where you do your fighting is not to exhaust limited resources, especially because it's hard to get public and proper public backing to a civil war. It's definitely something that I would say the majority of populace are usually opposed to.
Yeah.
In most times, and no one wants war on their doorstep, especially a developed country of people who have seen it happen in other countries that we are fighting for democracy in. But I will say this: we are, and I will declare this here. I put my branding slightly offensive backing. I cannot put the Blaze backing on this, but I put my branding. I think we are in a soft core civil war. And I mean, the other type of hardcore, soft core material.
I think we're in an overt civil war.
But I'm saying about soft core, meaning like to me, it's like, because, I'm not going to listen to my wording here. In the 80s, the 70s, the 80s, and 90s, someone would find a magazine, a kid would find it of their parents or whatever and be like, whoa, what's going on there? Then with the advent of the internet, we got all these weird categories of this kind of adult-like content.
Yeah.
And so now people who once perhaps were excited, I'm being good with my words. Lydia's looking at me. I'm being good. I'm being careful about this. We're perhaps excited by something very simple, something etc. That's called softcore, are now deadened inside to the most atrocious and weird types of things the mind could think of in that regard. And I think that's what we're seeing with this violence and this stuff, and kind of what I call myself a softcore Civil War producer, because we're kind of like producing stuff that people are getting desensitized to this, to where it's like, oh, another person stabbed and shot.
So this is,
okay, let's see something harder.
It's escalation and desensitization.
So we're softcore, meaning it's softcore because people are like, it's people are dead into the isolated incidences. It's like, okay, another person shot, whatever.
No, I think Portland ends your softcore theory.
You think it's hardcore there?
I mean, they targeted them.
Yes, but the media has done a pretty good job at still lying to the masses.
It doesn't matter whether there are people who believe one thing or another. What matters is a guy who's under investigation.
Jay, right? His nickname, Jay.
No. I'm talking about the far leftist guy who is accused of this right now under the assumption that we know who the guy is, the murderer, because they're investigating the guy. He has a big Black Lives Matter tattoo on his neck.
Ooh.
He yelled, "We got him right here. We got a couple right here." Someone else says, "Pull it out right here." Yeah. Then Jay and the other guy turn around. The guy who dies pulls out what it appears to be that he pulls out mace and then takes 2 to the chest. The friend of Jay, I think his name was Aaron Danielson, said that they were walking.
No, I think Aaron Danielson's the victim. His friend is Chandler Papas.
They called his name is Aaron J. Danielson. They called him Jay.
Oh no, I know I'm saying, but his friend is Chandler Papas,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Well, I don't know the guy's name.
Yeah.
But his friend said that they turned around when they heard someone yell, "We got him right here. We got a couple right here. Pull it out." They turned around and they says before he knows what happened, 2 shots were fired, and then his friend staggered down and died. At that point, it's almost. I mean, maybe it's not, but maybe it is. The shot heard around the world that we've crossed into hot territory. We've been seeing low-tier skirmishes, and we've been seeing resource battles for the past couple of years. I was talking about civil war a few years ago, and a lot of people scoffed and laughed about it. And then the things I predicted started to happen. And then I talked about earlier this year that they'll show up to your house. And then they showed up to Cassandra Fairbanks' house.
I did remember earlier on you were saying that, and I didn't think you were lying. I was just there in the midst of this, and I remember hearing reports from people like you saying they're coming to the houses, and I remember thinking in that moment, like, that's going to be so weird when that happens, and I didn't know it was going to happen like
It's
now.
happening faster and faster and faster.
I didn't think so.
Following the death of the guy in Portland, Antifa started making posts saying they need bulletproof vests and ballistic gear.
Yeah, they're getting financing. Outside financing, they really are. No, that's expensive. Look, I'm gonna tell you this. I have a company which I'm not gonna plug on your show because I wouldn't plug my own sponsors. But I have a great armor company to sponsor my show, and I see they're providing me all this stuff, ballistic helmet, everything, concealed stuff. Yeah, and I looked at the price tag that they're saving me from paying, and it's good quality stuff. So this is not useless. This is American made stuff. To buy 50, 40, vests and helmets. I mean,
It's
you're
like
talking
$600.
But I'm talking
for
about
like a
you're
low,
the tens of
low
thousands
grade.
of dollars for all this stuff. Nobody that's there has tens of thousands of dollars to give away. Who's funding this?
They raised $2 million for Jacob Blake. They're launching GoFundMe fundraisers, and GoFundMe allows it. They're posting on Twitter their Venmo and their Cash App or whatever, and they're getting money from random people online. Probably a lot of people from outside the country too. The point is not so much about financing, because I think, and we'll definitely talk about Donald Trump's theory about, you hear what he's talking about, the planes full of thugs? He's right. It's true.
Very interesting.
It's true. It's just the media doesn't want to take the honest assessment and interpret what he's actually talking about. But so I'll just talk about this. Donald Trump said that there are planes full of thugs in uniforms, and that somebody saw this on a plane. They got very scared. What the left imagines is a bunch of big dudes wearing military gear getting on a plane to go rough up the RNC. What the person probably saw was a bunch of leftists with patches and BLM tattoos getting on a plane. And that happens all the time. I don't know if you see this because you fly around a lot, right?
I'll tell you this. So I try to be careful, because even when I film footage that is not debatable, good old articles and periodicals like The Intercept, very dishonest places, will do whatever they can to discredit you. So I try to keep this stuff out of the air. But one thing now, there's these. Do you know about these really incredible journalists that have risen out of these riots, like Kaylin Delmeda from Scriber, Drew from Lives Matter? I think you guys
Drew,
yeah.
Tomorrow, yeah.
There's you guys have them tomorrow. There's Drew, George Ventura, Shelby Talcott, Richie McGinnis from the Daily Caller.
Definitely.
These are just Andy No. Of course, everyone knows
Right.
Andy No. These are just incredible people who are out there just exposing this stuff. And one thing that a lot of them have mentioned is when you fly out of major QLA airports like Los Angeles, and you will have people on the plane. Like when I was going up to Sacramento, or when I'm going up to Portland, people are on your flight with helmets and stuff.
Yep.
And they're not press.
Right.
Nobody brings helmets, black clad helmets and stuff. I'm watching people, and this is where the Kenosha stuff, the police found out, right, that there was 44 different cities in the detainments and arrests.
175 arrests, 104, I believe, were from outside Kenosha.
I see the same people, and I know Drew will echo this. I see the same people at cities across the country, and but see, here's the point. I'm openly admitting I'm not from those cities. I'm not there to participate in the demonstrations. I'm not being dishonest. I'm being honest. My intent is to go there and to capture the events, to put it up on Twitter so people can make their own judgment, create my own show. So if people want my opinion, they go watch Slightly Offensive. Whatever, do your thing. But if you are getting on planes, I mean, you look at these people, they're professionals. I think in Portland, it was Portland, one of the people was a Google engineer that got arrested.
We used to call these people the tourists. because we knew them. We knew who they were. So I used to, so Trump brings this up, and the media and all these leftists are calling him a conspiracy theorist right now. And I'm like, when Trump said that, I was like, because I used to fly at the peak of my career covering the stuff on the ground. I flew about 1.7 times per week, if you did the actual math. So just about twice per week, I was flying on some plane somewhere.
Were you like executive platinum or something?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, of course.
Free upgrades to first class?
Absolutely,
Oh,
always.
yeah, that's the life.
Yep, I'd walk right in and be like, out of my way, first class. But I'd notice two things. The journalists always bring in their tripods, and the far leftists go into the riot. And I always thought it was funny. Like when I'm flying to, St. Louis, I went to St. Louis back and forth several times. Oh, you'd see them in New York. There'd be like 4 or 5 people wearing clothes with patches and symbols and marks all over their bags with like slogans or whatever. And you're like, I know exactly what that person's going to do. I always tell people, though, it's not cheap. I'm sorry. It's not expensive. It is cheap. Flying is not that expensive.
What about driving, though? Because, okay,
they drive,
do you know about the Antifa snack van?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the Antifa snack van, Savannah Hernandez from Action 7, she was in Portland about a few days earlier of the RNC speech with Trump. And she had recorded the snack van's tires being slashed. People don't know what this is.
I remember that.
This is...
Big white van, right?
This is a big white van that offers supplies to Antifa, varied supplies. There's this weird thing at these riots where people like love passing out snacks. Like, I don't know about you, but like, I don't know. I mean, like, Cheez-Its are good, but like Cheez-Its paired with Molotov cocktails, there's better combinations.
Don't underestimate giving people food. I mean, so...
snacks, isn't that so childish? Like, here's a snack, rioter.
No. You know the history of Gatorade?
Enlighten me.
So they used to, it was the Florida Gators. I could be getting this wrong, but I'll give you the gist of the idea. They used to shoot pickle juice when they were playing sports because it's got electrolytes. It's, salty brine.
I love it.
They decided to make an actual drink that would help keep them hydrated and keep their electrolyte levels up. People underestimate how much better you perform when you're properly fed and hydrated. So when you see the Antifa going out and giving out energy drinks or they're literally fueling the unrest. I don't know if you're going to charge someone for handing out bags of Cheez-Its, but when people are running around and you give them food energy, you are ensuring it goes on longer, particularly if you're giving out drinks, energy drinks, sports drinks, or whatever.
I didn't, and I think that's where the complicitness in a lot of these riots come from different factors. And I want to bring this up, like whether it's short distance. By the way, the point of the Antifa snack van is it was in D.C. a few days later, which is crazy.
They were in Kenosha.
Yeah. But I'm saying so you'll notice the same outfits, like a certain flag that was in Chicago that's in Kenosha. That's more understandable. Okay, somebody drove from Chicago to Kenosha. I did the same thing. Let's not get too, out there with these ideas. Everyone's, going across borders. But what I did know is I do ask people, Austin Fletcher, I mentioned him earlier, a really good creator, early in 2017, 2016, used to ask people at the end of them complaining about Trump, famously, oh, who did you vote for? And they would always be like, I didn't vote.
Right.
The new thing is, oh, Jacob Blake, like I have multiple interviews, which there's so much unreleased footage on my channel and things I've been releasing recently because once you involve some sort of a gun-related altercation, etc., the everything else that you could post is not worth it at that point. Like I understand as a journalist, it's just not worth posting.
You can upload the raw to like an archive.
Well, yeah, I know, but at that point, right, I didn't upload a bunch. But I interviewed people and I'd ask them, they'd be like, Jacob Blake got shot. This is Kenosha. This is our county. And I'd be like, where are you from? And they'd be like, oh, I drove in. I drove in from Missouri. And you're like, well, look, I'm all for people that wanting justice. Not that the situation is a case of justice or injustice. I'm not going to comment on that. I according to the accounts of people involved, it looks like it was probably warranted, but I'm not the jury or the judge here. But I will say this: I'm going. This is a Monday night, and I'm thinking, this is my job, so I'm here because this is my job. Where do you work? And like from traveling on trips, the costs do add up. The hotels and food, etc. Where are you staying though? Like where are these people?
That's easy. It's not expensive to do what they're doing.
But you say that as a guy who's established. For a lot of people, $10 is a lot of money.
When I first got started, I had no income, and I would just be like, "Hey, if you want to support my work, you can go to my WePay," and then I would get a.
So it's crowdfunded anarchy.
But it's not just that. I'd post a tweet. Anybody got a place I could stay at in Los Angeles, and I'd get 50 responses.
Yeah, people do message me. Offer me. By the way, thank you. People offer me, like, someone offered me the other day for a brisket, but also even cooler. They asked me to come over for brisket. I wasn't in town. I drank a beer on set with Stu Bergier, who's a host at Blaze, and it turns out that the owner of the brewery, you're not going to know which one because you don't know what episode that was, is actually likes the Riot coverage in the show. And now I'm going to go get some beers at the place.
Cool.
So no, but I get what you're saying is like the connections, people are passionate about this stuff and they want to support it. So you're saying you don't think it's, because I know people say it's like, oh, the Open Society, it's Soros. You think it's more just crowdfunded?
It's not even crowdfunded. It's social credit, social currency. So I still know a lot of people who do this. You tweet. Anybody got a place I can stay? Boom. They have Facebook groups. They're well organized. A lot of people are like, how are they paying for this? And listen, man, they say the same thing about me. Who's funding Tim Pool? Find out who his backer is. And I'm like, no one. It's like I run a business with multiple revenue streams. I fund myself. I work for no one. I have no deals with anybody else. I sometimes mention that you can buy emergency food.
You work harder than most people, though. Really, you put out too much content in a good way.
Well, so these people can literally, because what I did, when I went to South by Southwest the first time in 2012, March, I just tweeted, anybody got a place I can stay? And I had 50 offers. And I crashed in a guest house. It was like an Airbnb, essentially. Someone's like, here's the keys. Here you go. Keep it up, man. Good luck. I'm like, thank you.
Yeah, well, you know what, and that's why there's this. It's really interesting right now too, because I know that during the 2016 era, a lot of people rose to influence. Where like, this is what I noticed is that the people who came out of like 2016, there was this political influencers, where it was like you don't exactly know why they're famous, but they have influence, and a lot of them have. I mean, I'm a married man. I'm not saying this inappropriately. A lot of these are very good-looking girls with very nice bodies that young men probably just like to follow because men like to hear women that look good spouse their ideas on camera.
That's why Fox News hires a bunch of blonde women.
Right. So it's like, and there's nothing wrong with being hot and using your good looks to get ahead in life. Hey, do what you got to do. But a lot of these people are just, I don't know what they do. And I don't have an understanding. But a lot of, and they're good looking. That's my point. But the people who are rising up during this election season are like myself, like these just like fugly guys who are like, hey, I'll go put myself to go get killed, so you don't have to. Well, I've been around for years, but I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of these, it's just, you know what I'm saying? The people who are rising up now show you how serious it actually is, because you raised up then because you were hot and you could bring attention and you were a little bit crass. Now it's like you're getting big because you're showing people getting shot, like BG on the Scene. You seen that journalist or whatever? The guy went from like obscurity to like Twitter famous in a matter of like 45 days.
Do the work.
Because he's doing the work. He's in the trenches. Generals are made in the trenches.
Yeah, man. Well, so going back to the point about the escalation and conflict and all this stuff, because we kind of deviated when I started talking about Trump's airplane full of people.
Hey, it's a good point.
What do you think is going to happen in the election? We got the mail-in voting problem. We got no one knows who's going to win. There have been a bunch of scenarios proposed by high-profile individuals on the left. The founder of MSNBC said he thinks that the House will give it to Trump, even though Biden wins, essentially, and that it's going to lead to chaos.
So this is a real emotional switch right here. This is something that I'm not a psychic, so please nobody in November clip this up to try to discredit me, but this is my real raw feelings. I think the energy, the momentum, and the people are behind Donald Trump, and I think it's evident. I mean, it was. Do you want to know something?
I agree with you.
I was at the acceptance speech for Biden, and I have a video that went viral of his own. There was only one supporter.
I saw that one guy.
Yeah, and he goes, "I'm the only guy here," and everyone else was Trump supporters. In his own home city of Wilmington, Delaware, he couldn't garner support, and the rest of the people were screaming at Trump supporters for not wearing masks outside. I was so shocked that. I know if this was a fair election, Donald Trump would win in a landslide. And not because you love him or hate him. It's just very evident by what's going on.
Take a look at this image. Sean Parnell says, Joe Biden emerged from his basement and flew to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on a private jet to speak to 6 people and take no questions from the press. Outside, he drew a crowd of almost 100 people. Way to go, Joe. Legit home state enthusiasm. It's his home state.
This makes me sad.
Well, it's arguably his home state. I know he's, Joe Biden's Delaware for the most part, but yeah, his PA is supposed to be his state. Look at this photo. Wow. This shocked me to my core. I wept when I saw this photo, Elijah. I said, no, Joe.
Literal tears.
I'm kidding.
No
by the way.
joke.
But this is it's insane.
Did you see, you know what I noticed is that when he's doing interviews with Kamala, how do you say it?
Kamala
can't fill half a high
You're
school
racist
gym.
if
Harris.
you say you're racist if you say it wrong. By the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kamala can't fill half a high school gym. That's a true story. I went to her rally. She couldn't fill half a high school gym. I'm telling you, pep rallies could fill more people than that. But they were like in these interviews, they're like 30 feet apart, her and Joe. It makes me wonder, it sounds weird, are they taped at different times? Are they done with a split to allow timing? Because I know how things work. I work in editing.
Right.
I'm going, the only way I could think that things are cut like this, other than pure insanity, and beyond, because if you want to talk about security, it's like Trump is more hated than Joe, and Trump doesn't have this kind of level of distance. Why is it like that?
Do you see this video where Trump's signing autographs? He's like patting people on the back and shaking hands. He's like, he's
a boss.
He didn't care.
He's a boss. He drinks Coke and eats Big Macs. What a cool guy.
You know why he does that though, right?
Because he likes good food.
Because he believes that fast food chains have national standards and are less likely to get you sick. And that he doesn't trust a random individual restaurant because he doesn't know what their standards are. He knows the fast food restaurants have nationalized
He's the only
standards.
guy who eats drunk food and doesn't drink.
Right, exactly.
And what a legend. He's like, look, guys, I'm gonna be like a drunk guy at 2 a.m., but completely sober and owning the entire far left with just one bite. And remember, he ticked everybody off with buying McDonald's for that team.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
Why would they get mad at that?
The team apparently loved it.
Yeah,
They were like,
that's
it's great.
Those guys eat like
burgers,
stale Funyuns. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's good for them.
All right, I want to show you one more thing before we go to Super Chats, though. Have you seen LeBron James's new shirt?
Oh.
Can you read that for me?
I wish I didn't have to, but it says, "Vote or die."
Huh.
LeBron James, man, this guy, I'm sorry, he's not smart. You know, like his comments on China.
American dream, man. Just get rich, not be smart, and live in the best country in the
he's
world.
One of the best basketball players ever, though.
Yeah, but I'm saying, you don't have to be smart. You just go around and throw around a little ball, hang out, make giant brand deals, and then just talk crud on your whole country that got you there.
But there are
Genius.
NBA players who are standing up for this country and, you know, are legit. And I'm not saying they're necessarily smart.
Do they
either.
get airtime, though? That's the question.
Well, you saw that dude who tore his ACL. What was that guy's name?
I don't pay attention to sports.
I don't remember.
I don't remember. I should, though, because that dude
poor
stood up for the flag and everything. But anyway, look, I don't really care that much about LeBron. I'm not trying to rag on him or anything like that. But he wore this shirt that said "Vote or Die." I like to show you South Park. This is South Park.
At least we know that unless it was Comedy Central, they're not going to rip you because these guys still have a sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
This is a picture from South Park right here. It's Puff Daddy. He's holding up a shirt that says "Vote or Die."
We can't show the video, huh?
No.
No,
copyright.
Yeah, and they're all swearing.
Also, yeah, so much
and he's
swearing.
chasing around Stan, and they're
What?
like shooting at him and stuff.
This is what we were watching earlier.
Yeah.
Oh, I
it's
love
hilarious.
this. I didn't even know the connection. I was like, why are you watching? It was so weird. I like South Park, actually. It's kind of weird because I'm a Christian. And, you know, my mom, you know, rest in peace. She used to, because she was like, my dad's a pastor. My mom's a pastor's wife. So she would she used to hate South Park because it was like, you know, it was just a lot of like private jokes and things. Well, it was. It used to be like a show that didn't know what it was there for, and Jew jokes and things that are just crass and the average person doesn't like. And it's kind of distasteful. Edgy, whatever. But kids liked it. It's weird how they've become like the most honest political, like, I guess, commentary show, and it's a paper cartoon. These guys they're not even conservatives or anything, have seen through the BS almost better than anyone. And what a statement in 2020 that, like, a guy named Tim Pool, who's not with a network, who funds himself and is not getting back-end money from some country, is having one of the most powerful voices. And even more slap in the face is not just a guy on YouTube running more successful business and getting more viewers than a network, by the way. It's like, I mean, it really is true. I mean, you get millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars in these terrible shows, and you're getting a better viewership, live viewership, than all these organizations, nonprofits, etc. But then it's like a step further. It's like, well, maybe Tim Pool's just this guy in a beanie and he knows something. But it's like, what if we just cut up some paper and manipulated it on our computer and it tells a truer story than multi-million-dollar broadcast networks? I mean,
South Park's establishment, though. Like they
it doesn't matter if it's establishment. It's just like, look at the technology behind it.
It's improved. It's like they actually have animation programs now.
Sure, but if you watch the way they put the show together, the creators even say that sometimes they're rendering it minutes before it airs.
Yeah,
like
totally.
They just don't care.
Yeah, they do it in real time. I think I haven't watched any of the later episodes, but it's hilarious just to see that these shows like South Park and The Simpsons have predicted so much, you know.
But it's so honest, and that's what I was gonna say about the show. Like, she used to not like it, but then she warmed up to it. My mom, she wouldn't watch it, by the way. My mom, people that know her, she had a cult following too. She did not watch South Park, but she understood when I'd show her, parts about it, that it became, the humor stopped being, oh, I got to make a racist joke, or I got to make this kind of joke. It was like, society is the joke. Let's just look at society and look at how crazy it is. And no longer humor's it's not edgy because it's crass or edgy because it's discriminatory. It's just edgy because real life is just a freaking clown show.
Yep. Do you know who's the guy who wrote the thing? Was it Kafka? No, I don't think. About the clown and the fire? You know what I'm talking about?
That I think it was.
Who was that?
Goethe.
No, look it up. Just Google it.
Yeah, I will. But I
don't think it's.
I'm trying to get some cred for myself here.
Yeah, I believe you were incorrect.
100 tonight.
No.
Okay.
You were wrong.
Well, all right.
It's like if I hear, I'm gonna be like, that's the guy. Do you know the story about the clown?
We're talking about Biden still, or who are we talking about?
It's the clown story, man.
Okay, all right. It's
a
different story.
Clown comes out on stage because there's a fire breaking out backstage, and he starts screaming, "Everyone run! There's a fire!" They all start laughing. He says, "No, seriously, there's a fire! You guys get out of here!" And they all start laughing even harder and harder. And then, like, I don't know.
I was wrong, and
Who is it?
Geez, I'm just doing great over here tonight. It's
Get it together,
Kierkegaard.
Lydia.
Yes.
Kierkegaard.
Can you read the story?
Okay, so a fire broke out backstage in a theater. The clown came out to warn the public. They thought it was a great joke and applauded. He repeated it. The acclaim was even greater. I think that's just how the world will come to an end, to general applause from wits who believe it's a joke.
There it is.
Wow.
Listen, man. LeBron James is wearing a vote or die shirt. It's literally a joke from South Park. Can I just say, I think in 2016 the sweet meteor of death actually came and wiped us all out, and we all went to purgatory together.
Wait, so this was before, this video on South Park was made before?
Yeah, like years ago, man.
Oh my,
Right, that's the point. LeBron James unironically wore a shirt where they were making fun of the idea a decade ago. Like, I don't even know when this episode's from. The YouTube video is from 2014. LeBron's actually wearing vote or die. What? Dude. You know, man, I tell you what. I don't take it to a dark place. I have to talk about scary things, riots, man, people are getting killed, it's getting crazier and crazier, and I laugh. You know what I do? Listen. This is the way you got to view the world. You wake up in the morning, you might find that things are bad. But if you always take it to a dark place, you'll never get ahead. You got to learn to laugh at the craziness, and you got to learn to you got to learn to respect the gifts you are given. I'll tell you what. This is a lesson people got to learn. You right now, you've got it made. You're one of the richest people in the world. You know that? Americans, this is a great country. This is what I tell people. If you were buck naked in the middle of the woods, alone, that's you at zero. If you're buck naked in the middle of the woods and you got a pointy stick, you got something. You're doing better. If you're buck naked in the middle of the woods and you got a cut and you're bleeding, now you're negative. It's really, really hard for me to view anything as necessarily detrimental to me. Like, if I got, that's why I'm always like, if they banned me, I'm not going to cry about it. I'm just going to be like, I don't know, I guess there it is. I got my health. I got my skateboard. I got friends. Some cats.
A good life. And I think that I want to point this out. There's a really funny statement that a friend and I, we were just laughing together. You just have those good times. You just have some beers, hanging out, whatever, chilling. Maybe it's an iced tea you prefer, whatever. And I was joking. I was going, all these people want you to be this or that, and they rag on you. Why aren't you say this? Why aren't you like that? Well, you're just trying to be you. And I go, it's like we were talking. There's nobody out there that is talking crud, that is a hater, that is just completely trying to tear you down, that has a life that I envy. It's like every night. It's like ultimately, my wife is not just my wife. She's my best friend. She's incredible. She really, and it's not just saying that. It's like she's so much fun to hang out with. She's my priority. Is
she good at video games?
She's good at Animal Crossing.
Oh, okay. That counts. All right, I'll accept it.
She has a pretty good island. I'm not going to lie. But I was going to say, is that we're there. We hang out every day when I come back from these rides. I come home. I have a woman who loves me. I have a dwarf hamster who couldn't give a crap if I died tonight.
It's adorable.
But I feed him anyways. His name is Gus. He's morbidly obese, and he might be racist.
Oh my gosh.
But I will,
racist answer.
Yeah, but I will say this, that, but it's like I have a great place. We're thinking about having some kids. It's like there's no weird far left writing or anything that can take away the fact that me and my wife love each other, that we have a good life. And you know what? We've been poor before. We could be poor again. She grew up in Africa with nothing. I grew up, near poverty with a dad who tried to start a church. We grew up near gangs and everything. I didn't know. I live in a poor neighborhood of LA, which people don't know that LA can be very ghetto, actually. It can be very poor. Even though it's America, it can get very, very dangerous and bad. And we've come from nothing, and we've had nothing together. And ultimately what makes us happy and what brings us together is just the fact that we have a good outlook on life, that we love God, we love each other, and we live to protect this country from people who want to destroy it. And it's like, and in the end, you can shoot me with rubber bullets. DHS, Department of Homeland Security, I'm just getting over an injury. They broke my shin in Portland.
Whoa, really?
Oh
Yeah,
my
they
gosh,
shot me
dude.
point blank with a canister, rocket, like a gas-propelled canister. It split open my shin and cracked my shin, and I fell to the ground. It was really bad, and I was off the field for a few weeks. But I'm back. And I've been positive through it all.
Gotta wear armor, bro. No joke.
I didn't know shin guards were necessary at riots.
I mean, if you're consistently doing conflict, then the number one rule is never stand in between the police and the rioters.
Well, unfortunately, Portland is hard to do that.
Right.
But I'm just saying, in the
Dude,
end,
try
I'm
doing
just-
it in favelas in Brazil.
Well, I'm not. One day I'll get to your level.
Oh no, I'm out of that. I just sit in my.
I'm a Tim Pond, not a Tim Pool.
Yeah,
But one day my pond will widen into a pool.
I love
There
it.
you go. I just sit in my room and talk, complain on the internet about my feelings now. It became too dangerous. I started getting harassed, I started getting death threats, and they recognized me, and then you reach a certain threshold, and I think you might run into that too.
I don't think it's safe now, but Antifa treats me pretty fairly now. After they've given me 2 concussions, actually. I got hit in the head with like brass knuckle type things just back in January. I have a dent in my skull.
Yeah.
They just came up. They tried to rob my producer of his camera, and then they punched me in the back of the head. And luckily, I was wearing a bit of a bump cap, but they still hit and put a little dent in the back, cracked open my skull. I've been in conflict with them, but most recently, I've been straight up telling them, I'm past the point of taking crap anymore. Just in case you're watching, I will never attack anyone. I'm a completely defensive person. But if my life is in danger, I am now fully capable, without hinting on what that means, I'm fully capable and surrounded by people to defend it. And I do not operate out of a place of vulnerability anymore. And and they know that. And they put alerts out. And I'm telling you, if you're part of Antifa, if you're around these people, Elijah Schaffer is not somebody you want to mess around with, because even if you somehow took me out, you would be taken out very shortly after, because of the people I'm surrounded with. So that's just a statement.
Don't start fights.
Do not start fights with me.
Don't break the law.
Do not start fights with me.
Anybody. Don't break the law.
But me particularly, don't try it.
Yeah, don't do it. That's fair.
At a certain point, to be most effective, you can see that there are some people who just can't go on the ground anymore because they get targeted. And it was happening to me, and I was like, I don't want to be on the ground being the story with people running up to me, and that's what was happening.
But I'm going to covert now.
Yeah, you dress up like Antifa?
Sometimes I spend $250 on a trip changing outfits and buying new clothes, and sometimes in a day I'll change 3 times while covering things.
Wow.
That's
Multiple armor, colors, covert shirts. I mean, I was going to stands, Black Lives Matter stand, buying clothing off the street just to change while I was at a riot. I throw clothes in the trash while I'm out and buy stuff at stores, and I just change my appearance. I have lots of glasses, etc. And that's what it's come down to. If you don't invest heavily in different appearances, they'll target you. I mean, if you've got to look. People know how you look.
Yeah, but when I would go out, I would wear relatively different things. But yeah, definitely, I wear the same clothes.
It's a
every
war
day.
game now. It's a war game. I mean, you have to treat it like you're a war reporter. And I'm not fluffing.
Oh, conflict
my
is
tail.
conflict, bro.
That's what I'm saying. It's not like I'm not like going. I don't walk out like like wearing like John Wick. Like I'm gonna come out. It's just like you realize that it's not just like the press aren't safe. Anybody who's exposing the truth by name, they want to kill your guest. Is he coming to Monterey, Drew?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they literally are trying to kill him.
Of course.
Like murder this
guy.
guy.
I've had them post pictures of my mom.
But it doesn't make sense, because it's like, this is a guy just filming stuff.
Well, they don't want the truth getting out.
I hate these people.
They want to be able to propagandize and destroy with impunity, and journalism hurts that. So journalists at big companies, they don't want to take the risk. What do these guys get paid 30, 40 grand at some of these garbage companies? And they're like, you want me to insult these guys? I'll show up to my house.
And they agree with them too.
Most of them do, I'd say.
Let's be fair, yeah.
Let's do super chats.
Yes.
All right. So this is from, where are we at? Dom D says, I've been talking about this since 2017. I don't believe the moment Trump started is conservative. It's just America first, where everyone can come together. From my research, it feels like this is the last gasp of what caused the Civil War, mass division before peace. So long as the lunatic racists don't win, Jay Bosquez says, Tim Chacho and lispy, slightly pale surfer guys. What if Me Tooing our elections was nothing but basement war using a VPN to cover the bathing suit area vids and zombied out trolling Americans? I have no idea what you're trying to say.
I
Interesting.
think that was our conversation about
Yeah.
my California voice, which people love to make fun of, but I think is awesome.
Yeah, it is 100%. We'll take it.
Matt Trim's Coffin says, journalism today is like the armchair anthropology of the 19th century. Have artifacts sent to you at home and use your imagination to write the book. You ever see one of the earliest drawings of an elephant? It was described to a guy, and he drew this picture, and it's hilarious. It's so funny.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, and there's really funny images where they're like, if someone found a bat skeleton and didn't know what the bat was, here's what they would draw, and it's a gigantic monster with big fingers because they wouldn't know that there was wings. You know what I mean?
Like two little just wings.
Yeah.
Very nice.
But the monster they drew was had huge fingers.
Well, we see that with dinosaurs too. We have no idea how they looked.
Right, exactly. That was the point.
Yeah.
Are we in your super? This is the weird part of this is your super chats. Here we go.
Yeah, here we go, baby.
Yeah.
All right.
Harold Cole says, from the mouth of a cop, you should check out Donut Operator's channel. Thanks for what you do.
Oh, yeah.
I have seen some of his videos. He does a great job.
Yeah, good channel. Good breakdowns.
Yeah.
Smart guy, yeah.
John Scow says, favorite political meme? Mine is where it shows Bernie Sanders and it says, I am once again asking for your financial support. That's a good one.
That's great.
I don't know if any off the top of my head. Yeah. What do you think?
I think that actually reminds me of living in California. It was like, they're proposing raising the state tax from like 13%, I think, up to 16 or 17%.
And they want to tax people who have been there within the past 10 years.
Yeah.
Even
just
if you
moved my
leave.
company out.
Doesn't matter. Too late.
Oh, I'm not paying that. The welcome tyranny.
What are they going to do? Are they going to send cops to Texas to get you?
Try me. Do not come on my property.
Texas, yeah, man. Good luck with that.
Mr. Scratch says, remember to vote to avoid the red mirage scenario Tim was talking about. Trump needs a clear majority to win. Don't get complacent. That is a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Yethna says, please invite Ethan Van Sciver as a guest. He's an NJ and has crazy stories of dealing with SJW lunacy, currently making them cry because he's over a $1 million in a crowdfunded comic book. He's a canceled Republican. I'm dying to see y'all chat. See my email. I don't know. Send an email to spintheufo@gmail.com.
I'll look him
But
up.
I've heard his story vaguely. All right, let's see. Colin says, at least Rosenbaum. No, I'm not going to read that one. That's going to get in trouble. Sean Lewis says, Joe Rogan's first day with Spotify, and he already gets censored. Spotify conveniently refused to upload certain people. There was a list out there of said people, and they all share something in common. I've seen the list of Joe Rogan's Spotify uploads.
Yikes.
There's many shows that are missing. I don't know anything about it, but I can say I believe this is true. All of the podcasts will never stop existing. They're not getting deleted or anything. It's just Spotify's not going to be hosting specific podcasts, I guess.
Spotify has their favorites, and I mean, it's kind of sad, right? I mean, if he left YouTube, people said it was because of the censorship, but it can't be why he left YouTube. I think it was just a good deal, probably Spotify.
I think it's a great thing that he did that by leaving, because it's putting pressure on YouTube that there's competition. I mean, there's still Alphabet has holdings. I don't know to what degree, if it's the majority or whatever of Spotify. But with Rogan now going to Spotify, it puts YouTube in a weakened position where Spotify's open for business. You got a successful podcast on the platform. I mean, his show was big on YouTube.
You're on Spotify, right?
Yeah,
But
not video, though.
I know, because that's what I say. My podcast is on audio as well there, and I just feel like the numbers aren't there, though, compared to YouTube. Like, I feel like there's such higher numbers on YouTube.
Podcast network is very different. I mean,
people listen, but I didn't notice this from the audio. People listen longer than people watch.
Yep.
So if you put like a 2-hour podcast on Spotify, like half the people listen to the whole thing, and then like 20% of the people listen to the whole thing on YouTube. So it's got a good retention rate.
Yep, and that's why it's worth more money. All right, let's see. Where are we at? Vicidia says, heard about a New York Times article from Steve Deese yesterday about a fault in our PCR test. The issue is that 90% of the people who tested positive barely had any virus. The test was calibrated to be overly sensitive. Long scientific explanation. I heard something about that. Justin Four says, when Rittenhouse's charges are dropped, the defamation lawsuits begin. Sean King's career experience will be beneficial to him when he goes broke and has to beg for money. We'll see how it plays out. Cohen Andrew says, Elijah was in the Chaz. Massive amount of respect for slightly offensive. I watched him on Crowder. Love and appreciate what both of you do. Yeah, I thought it was convenient because we wanted people who were on the ground. Because, look, I don't go on the ground anymore. It's just a reality. I'm looking at your Twitter videos and using your reporting for a lot of my work. So that'd be great to have you on.
We should, yeah, and maybe we'll connect one time in the future too. I got to get you out to Texas. I really do. You guys got to come out. I mean, one time you'll come out there though. I'll get you guys out there. But also, if you ever get a new studio or something, Maybe I'll be back out here in a year or so.
Heck yeah, man.
We'll talk.
We got one from Shannon Schaffer. I saw on FB that someone said that if you type antifa.com to a browser, it will go to Joe Biden's campaign
This is
website.
I think it was a troll.
Yeah, it's a troll.
Yeah.
People, wait, can I just say that? People are really concerned, and you have to learn humor. Like, when you go, like, Antifa.com goes to Biden, or, like, if you
Anyone can just do that. It's not hard.
Right. It's not, it's supposed to be funny.
I mean, somebody bought
scary.
antifa.com, which is probably expensive.
Oh, my gosh. Maybe it wasn't, and they're going to now have, I want that. I want that to be my website.
I know, right?
They said, I did do that, which did go directly to the campaign website. I looked at the bottom of the website and saw that it was endorsed by Biden. Thoughts? You can buy any domain, and automatically redirect it to any other website. Mr. Tumnus says, the White Fragility audiobook is on YouTube. It's 6 hours long and tough to listen to.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I can imagine. All right, let's see. The Coaster Guy says, hey, Tim and Elijah, cheers from a National Guardsman working on the COVID task force in Michigan. Unfortunately, I've recently lost a few friends due to my Army career. I've always considered myself a regular person, but that's unacceptable for them. Then they weren't your friends to begin with. I've got a good friend who is, I guess you just say like a normie. But they post all the SJW stuff, the Black Lives Matter stuff.
A few of those friends
vote for
too.
Biden. And when I said I'm probably going to be voting for Trump, they were like, I trust that you've done your research and you have your reasons, and I'm disappointed, but we'll talk about it. And I'm like, yeah, for sure.
I'm disappointed in
That's a real friend.
Hey,
Someone who's
Tim.
like, I trust you, and I think you've done I think you're smart, and you know what you're doing, but I disagree, but we're still friends.
I wouldn't have friends that are disappointed in me for my voting, because if they're my friend, then they should know that I don't give a crud about people's feelings about what I vote for. It's like, I'm sorry, dude, if you're going to tell me that you're disappointed. I know what you're saying though too. I have friends too that are like, me and my friends do not talk about who we're voting for. We just live our lives authentically, and that should show what you're voting for. Like,
no, I think this is good
you know?
because the response was we should talk about it. And I said, absolutely. And I'm confident I convinced
are they one
them.
of those people that's like really not involved in the political side of social media?
They're absolutely. Yeah. None whatsoever.
Don't you love those people? They
But-
keep you grounded.
They're refreshing.
But they're inundated by TV. And
the TV.
all the big companies.
Cut the cord.
So they're posting things. They hate Trump derangement, all that stuff. But they're not politically active. So they have these generic normie default liberal opinions they've seen from the TV. So when they say to me,
Yeah.
I'm disappointed, but we should talk about it. What that says is, for one, they're actually my friend and they want to talk with me, because even if they're of the opinion I shouldn't vote for Trump and they're actively trying to help me, I respect that. This is something I talked about, because I'm not religious. When people would say things like, I'm praying for you, my response is like, I really appreciate that. Bill Maher said something like this. He's an atheist. When people would say, I'm praying for you, he said, that means a lot to me, because it says that you're willing to do something because you're trying to save me. You want to help me. I respect that. Even though he doesn't believe it'll do anything, it's someone actually saying, I want to try and help you in some way that I can. And so I respect it. Somebody to tell me that they don't like Trump and they want to talk to me about it says a lot to me. Because there are a lot of people who just explode and go nuts and post insane things. And I'm like, we were never really friends if you wouldn't want to just talk to me about what's going on in this country. And you think that I would just willy-nilly choose these things. But the remarkable thing about a lot of these people I know who have gone full SJW and are screeching into the wind, they don't read any news. They just see memes from like Occupy Democrats.
And like TikTok, like 15-second videos that describe things in extremely reductionist ways.
Exactly. All right, let's see what we got here. Leor Engelstein says, Tim Pool is hipster Ben Shapiro, and you can't convince me otherwise.
You guys do talk similarly. I was going to say, okay, hold up. Because these are both people you know, and I know I have not met. You've been on Joe. You and Joe are friends, right, Rogan?
I would say, yeah, I guess I talk to him relatively often.
There's this YouTuber that recreated Joe Rogan and Ben Shapiro on. I was dying because he goes, Joe's like, they did a pretty good Joe impersonation, like, yeah, Ben. So I think we should give all of our kids just like a bow and arrow and put them out in the wilderness. And Ben Shapiro goes, well, if you go to my website right now, you go to cashforgold.com/Ben, that's CASH. And he goes, and Joe's like, are you seriously plugging your sponsor on my show? And he goes, yeah, if you go to Cash for Gold, Cash for Gold, blah, 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 blah. And he doesn't know he's speaking. He just literally starts going, blah, 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 blah.
So Joe's actually hard to do an impersonation of. There's like a really funny video about Joe Rogan having a chimp on his show. It's really, I forgot what the channel's called, but you can look it up. And it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. He's like sitting there and he's like, I'm so excited to have you on. And there's a chimp just going like, And then he's smoking a bong and he goes, that's crazy. And the chimp is just like, that's screaming. But I was watching that and I was like, I'm not trying to be mean. It's a really, really, really great video. It's hilarious. I laughed ridiculous. I was laughing my ass off. But I'm like, it's really hard to do an impersonation of Joe Rogan. It's really easy.
But I was gonna say, but it's easy with Ben.
Ben's easy.
But I think the wording, like I think in that same video, they're like, hey, I think we're gonna try to set the record for talking about elk meat the fastest in this episode, and then any episode. But then Ben Schwartz goes, like, listen, Ben, and he keeps plugging his own advertisement. All right, yeah, that's cool. But have you checked out Cash for Gold?
So the cartoon that Tim is talking about is from a channel called Flash Gets.
Yes,
on
that's
YouTube.
what I thought it was.
Yeah.
So Leo also says, can you link the polls and studies that you source on your YouTube videos? Thank you for your awesome work. A lot of times I'm just pulling off the top of my head because I've read them before and I don't have them in every single video. This is actually a challenge in producing so much content. People will be like, man, Tim sure does say the same thing in a lot of his videos. And I'm like, but it's because someone who watches this video didn't watch that video.
Right.
And so if I don't mention it, the context is excluded. Right.
You are a content machine. This house is a content machine. That the studio, everything you do is a content machine because honestly speaking, you produce about as much daily content as a network does. I'm not even joking. I mean, I'm not talking up on your own show. I mean, I know that I understand what you're doing.
I do 24 hours. I do 6.
Well, on all your channels though?
Yeah, 6 hours.
Yeah. I'm saying, but that's still, I mean, a lot of online networks, when you really put together what they put out, just like social clips and stuff, it is pretty remarkable because you don't drink or anything, do you? You're just you just focus on work. So you're just you just grind, which is like a lot of young guys are probably listening. They're thinking, why am I not getting ahead while they're just like smoking pot and drinking? Which, by the way, it's America. If you occasionally want to smoke pot or whatever, do you figure out your own life in a balance. But like, if you really, like, a lot of people that complain about not getting ahead, they're actually more lazy than they think. They want to receive benefit without putting in the grind, and they go, well, Tim Pool has a big audience and blah blah blah. It's like, no, you've been people put in the grind before the audience comes, and the audience and the recognition comes because you put it in when nobody's watching.
Yeah. I was inspired by someone who told me that they produced content every single day, no matter what, with no days off. And so I said, then I will do that. And so I started making one video per day, every day, no matter what. And if it meant that I didn't know what I was doing, I just had to like sit there and grind as hard as possible to figure something out. And sometimes it was kind of bad, sometimes it was kind of good. And then once I got once I started just getting that down perfectly, I was like, I could easily do a couple more. And so now I'm at, so there's of original content minutes, about 3 hours and 40 or so minutes. In terms of maximum total content, it's about 6 hours. And so how it works is there's 2 hour live. There's 1 hour and 40 minutes of recorded segments throughout the day. And then the 2 hour live is broken up into individual segments. So the total output is 6 hours, a little redundant. So it comes down to around 4. But
I'll get there one day. I'll give you a call, Tim. Once I say, hey, Tim, I don't think I can go out in the field anymore. I'm going to call you and you're going to give me some tips on how to pump out that much content.
It's called just work hard, exercise.
A 1-page book. Work hard. Thanks, Tim.
I exercise almost every day when I can. And, it's skateboarding. It's pretty intense. I'm like literally drenched.
Riots are my exercise. I'm just running around.
It's true, yeah.
Like 3 or 4 days a week. I'm like running around, just running around, dripped in sweat for like 6-7 hours, and that's my whole exercise.
Wow, yeah.
When I first started covering this stuff, I've been skateboarding my whole life.
You're pretty good.
Oh yeah.
People maybe that follow you closely would know that, but I watched you guys out there. You guys are ripping it on the skate park.
Yeah. I don't know what I did substantial today because I was kind of just horsing around.
Did you do a tray flip at one point?
Yeah, first try.
Yeah. I saw. Yeah, that's kind of hard. I never did one successfully.
Oh, easy, dude. I did switch tray flip, switch hard flip. I did a switch hard flip.
Good on you, man.
I was trying to do a switch hard flip late 180, and I accidentally did a switch hard flip late frontside flip 90 degrees, and then we all started laughing. I was like, I wasn't trying to do that. That would have been crazy if I did. But that's a particularly difficult trick. Yeah, I can do a bunch of late flips and all the crazy stuff. But it's not so much about being good at skateboarding. I skate every day just to stay active, make sure I'm getting exercise. When I first started covering all the riots, the one advantage I had over all of the other journalists was that I could run. As far as I could tell, I never reached a point where I would get tired running. So the riots are breaking out, and I'm running full speed. I'm ducking, I'm weaving, I'm rolling, and I'm just not tired. I'm like, this is nothing compared to jumping off a building and slamming your face into concrete. I'm just walking down the street. So I remember there was one protest I was covering. It was one of the Trayvon Martin protests, and we walked literally the entire length of Manhattan. just like the whole way. And I'm like, I got to hand it to the protesters, man. I'm impressed they walked that far because I was tired by the end of that.
Miles and miles. People don't realize how much.
How many miles is that? Like
Dude,
30 miles?
Well, you know what the worst part was in Kenosha was that they put the city curfew. So we had to drive like 30, 40 minutes out of the county to just get McDonald's. And people don't realize that at these things, sometimes you like, what's healthy to me is taking one of the breads off each of my double cheeseburgers. Like that's why people will talk like people are like, oh, you gained some weight doing this. I go, dude, you know what sucks is it's 3 a.m. and you have two options: McDonald's limited menu or Burger King limited menu. And unfortunately, after you've been running around, you know, you're not going to eat a salad. And it does tax you and it wears you out.
I remember when I covered the collapse of Occupy Wall Street when the police came in, I did a live stream for 22 hours straight.
Holy, what?
Yeah. And so people were running and buying batteries and running them to me when I was like, well, my phone's about to die. Then people in the chat would be like, get him a battery. And they'd run to the store, buy a battery. And I got 3 batteries that day from people like running up to me, finding me from the stream and being like, here's the battery. I'm like, yes. And I'd plug it in. But then eventually I was holding an umbrella because it was raining and I couldn't move my hand anymore. And so then I was like, oh man, I need a banana. And then people ran and found me and gave me bananas and like smoothies and stuff.
You do start to shake and stuff. And I think a lot of these people, and I'll tell you this, because you know this, a lot of these journalists I mentioned earlier, like George and Kaylin and Drew and stuff and Andy, is you can see how they've aged from this because of just, no, realistic. I'm 27 years old, but like if you see right when I got into this, I had bleached blonde hair. I had a nose ring. I was like,
you were all ripped and chiseled and sparkling teeth.
I actually had a 6-pack. and I was in pretty good I was in some of the best shape of my life, like not a lot, but benching like 250, whatever, doing pretty good. And now I am like Leonardo DiCaprio dad bod. No, I'm not that bad, but like meaning I am not in the best shape of my life, and I still go to the gym, everything. I'm trying to exercise, but it's like when you get your shin busted out by DHS and you're stuck, or when you're traveling, you know, you go out to go to Chicago and you buy all your groceries and they expire in your fridge because now you got called out because somebody else decided to burn down their town. It's really hard to take care of your health. It really is. This is a very hard industry to take care of your health.
Yeah, there were a lot of days where I would start losing the ability to walk because you cover a protest for 4 hours, no water, no potassium. You're exerting yourself, and it's like running a marathon.
And all while wearing a gas mask too half the time with like no oxygen, and then your pores are burning on the side of your face. Every time you sweat, but people don't realize about like being in clouds of tear gas for multiple hours is it
dries.
Soaks. Yeah, it's like soaks into your like DNA or something. I mean, this is totally anti-science, but let's just go with it. Yeah, but I mean, like, what I'm saying is like it feels like it becomes a part of you.
Yeah.
And then the worst part of the night is when you get in the shower.
Yeah.
And you feel like you're it's like lava.
Your
whole body cries.
Wait. You ever see that movie Daybreakers?
No.
It's Ethan Hawke plays a vampire, and the whole society is vampires. And they're running out of humans.
Oh, I know. Yes, I do know this.
But there's a scene where Willem Dafoe's character discovers a way to turn back to being human when he gets ejected from his car, bursts into flames, and hits the water. So they have this scene where Ethan Hawke is in this vat, and they open it. Sunlight comes in, and he bursts into flames and screams. And then they close it. He's like, ah, and they open it again. He bursts into flames. That's what it's like. You're coming home. You're coming back from when I was in D.C. on Inauguration night during the Trump riots when he was getting inaugurated. I was covered in pepper spray, just like, oh, dude, all over.
Was it like the bear mace kind, or did they just
cover it was police OC, oleoresin capsaicin, and so they were spraying, and I had all over my neck and my shirt, and I got in the shower, and it was like that scene from Daybreak, as you turn the water on and you go, ah. I'm kidding, it's not that bad.
You know, it is, because what I told someone about, I said, this is where I'm gonna get graphic here. So you have. You know, speaking of cracks in the matrix, you have another crack, and the problem is that when you shower, that the water runs down your crack and it gets I'll call it a sphincter medically.
Oh, no.
You gotta be careful,
having
man.
Liquid tear gas drip into your sphincter and feel like burning, like it feels like someone took a Red Hot Chili Pepper, not the band, and just shoved it up your butt. It hurts, it burns, and you have your other front part that
Your front hole.
you know, that especially if you have, you know, manscaped recently or anything that's all sensitive, if you've done anything like that, you guys, you know, you got to take care of what you got to take care of. And it touches these freshly cut pores and stuff down on the family jewels. And oh my gosh, like I remember the first time my old producer did this, you just hear in the bathroom, the shower turns on, and I go, 3, 2, oh dude, what is this? I'm like, I couldn't warn you. I'm sorry. You got it. It's like, you got to get it over with.
People, it's
part of
funny.
it.
It's funny when you're hanging out with someone who's never actually gone through it. And it's like the first spraying is kind of bad, but then after like 15 or so minutes, they forget about it. And you just know they don't understand what's coming next. So they're like, you get the spray on, you get tear gas dried on you or whatever, and then you go about your business, and it's like you're mildly uncomfortable a little bit. But then most people tend to forget. Then you go back to the HQ or whatever, and they don't know what's about to come next. And you look over at your friends, and you're like, "This is gonna be hilarious." And then they go in the shower, and then we all start laughing and like high five, and then crack beers. Like,
It's like hazing.
smash it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it sounds like hazing.
But the best part about this is that like what will happen is so a lot of times a lot of these journalists are looking, you know, they're trying to figure out how to finance themselves. So I've been trying to really help these guys, give them, you know, let them stay in my hotels with me, whatever. So what will happen is like 4 guys who have just been reporting, taking off all their riot gear that's been doused in spray, the whole room, you're just coughing the whole night. You can't stop coughing. But the worst part is when I get home, my wife, she'll open up the bag and it'll burn her eyes and make her cough. So we soak my gear. The water in the bathtub, we have to soak it out because it's too much for the washer to handle. It turns dark gray black. So there's so much gas in your clothes chemically that it turns the water black. It's disgusting.
I went to a Trump rally in Fort Lauderdale, and when I was going through the security line for the press, they asked me to take I have a sling bag that I would, because it's small enough, just be like, you throw it over your shoulder. It's a mountain climbing bag, and it's very flat against your body, so it's really simple to carry. And I took it off, and they said, we have to screen all the bags. They put it down. The dog sniffed it, and the dog went nuts. And they were like, whose bag is this? And I was like, it's mine. They're like, come with me. And they pulled me off to the side, and they were like, our dog has alerted us to your bag. We searched it. Can you explain to us why this happened? And I was like, oh, you know, I cover civil unrest and conflict. And he was like, oh, okay, here you go. And he handed it to me like
oh, cool, man.
The bag was drenched in this stuff, man. I brought that bag everywhere. In Turkey, tear gas. In Brazil, tear gas.
It's the pores. You know, one of the biggest things I hate about the tear gas is, so I've gotten some pretty, I mean, you know, like I get shot up pretty often by like, I'm glad I haven't gotten the big rubber discharges. You know, like those,
I got
almost
some,
like
yeah, they're around somewhere.
where they just give you like massive welts. I haven't gotten one
Were
of
they
those
40
yet.
millimeter, I think?
Yeah, like I get more just the balls, you know, the little
I got
pellets.
shot in the face with one of those once. A ricochet,
What?
though. I was leaning up against a wall in Baltimore. I think this was Baltimore. And the cop shot it was a round planter right next to me, and it exploded into my face. And because I was crouching behind a wall, I had my goggles on my head, and I didn't pull them down because I was like, I'm behind this planter hiding. And when it hit the side of it, it shattered and sprayed my face with plastic bits and pepper spray. It was great.
Yeah, because they have the pepper balls. And I
Yep.
think what people don't realize too, what always ends up happening is I always end up getting hit pepper balls in my knuckles, which you see a lot of, like
what?
there's a ton of scars.
Oh, man.
And they end up hitting my hands, and then I end up getting chunks ripped out of my fingers. So I have like all these, you'll see all these like just random like scars from pepper balls ripping chunks out of my fingers. And so sometimes I'll come back with holes, and I would say, but literally my least favorite part, and I will say this more than all of this of doing this, is just that it gets into your like neckline. And so every time you sweat a little bit more, the water starts dripping, and it feels like little like flames dripping down your back.
No.
And you're recording things, and it just feels like needles. And it's like, I'm not against acupuncture, but not while I'm covering a riot, you know?
Have you noticed traditional journalists being morons during riots?
Oh, they have no idea what they're doing. They're like on the side, they're freaking out. They're like have like security with them. Like, oh my gosh, we have people firing bullets. And you're like,
Yes.
sir,
Have
that's
you-
not
have you-
bullets. Those are pepper balls.
Have you seen the video of the woman from CNN in Ferguson when the gunshots go off and she goes, oh, and then just like spins around and then runs? Like, well, actually, I would say not really runs because she couldn't move that quickly. I've seen so much of this These people.
I did run though. I was 6 feet away from the Kenosha incident, which apparently were
Which, the first or second?
the first one right there. I was filming a car. I love when people like get at you. I was like, I said it was an Infiniti. I don't know. Someone's like, it's a Nissan. I'm like, those are essentially the same thing. Oh, shut up! Like, you can't call me fake. I don't know. I was on the side of it. The body shape looked like an Infiniti, and they're breaking open the windows and they're trying to light it on fire. And then good old young K boy comes. Kyle, he comes over here and he's comes to the other side of the window, of the broken out window where this altercation happens. You can check out, whatever, but I was there. And when I started hearing the bullets go, because there was one that went off right before.
Right.
So I hear like this, and I'm like,
hit the deck.
And then I hear, I think it was like 5 or 6 shots.
4.
Well, I'm just saying, like in the moment.
Yeah,
like I don't know how many I heard, but then what people don't talk about is right after all the extra gunshots that started going off, like up to 20 in different directions. So I just ran behind a brick wall, because at that point, when you start hearing bullets flying all over the place, this was not like that idea of not knowing what was happening. I heard it and I ran. It took me about 45 seconds for everything to stop, for me just to run back over and see that somebody had been completely, hit in the head. But I'm just going to say something like, when there's a difference of hearing gunshots and then seeing muzzle flash and having that happen right in front of your face,
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, it is a difference. I did run because at that point I'm actually thinking my safety. It's not just like I'm scared. I'm like, if I don't get behind something now and this escalates,
That might be it.
yeah, I'm not going to die for somebody else's crime. I always said I'll die for my country, but I'm not going to die because some idiot was vandalizing a car shop. Like, you can, if he dies for that, that's up to him and his risk. I'm not dying for your petty crime.
So one thing that was really interesting, I was trying to fact check the other day, but I don't know if I can, was that the New York Times reported the dude was being chased, the Kenosha kid was being chased by Rosenbaum, and then someone fired into the air. So Kenosha kid turns around, and then Rosenbaum lunged at him and tried to grab the gun, and that's when he fired 4 shots, so the New York Times said. And so I pulled up this story from ABC 13 that says Rosenbaum followed Rittenhouse. Medical examiner said he was shot in the groin, the back, the left hand. The wounds fractured his pelvis and perforated his right lung and liver. He also suffered a superficial wound to his left thigh and a grazed wound to his forehead. Is the superficial wound to his left thigh not from a gunshot? Or
can we just look at the first sentence there? A man known for his love of skateboarding, a Texas transplant to the state, and a college student acting as a volunteer medic were killed. Like, I don't know if you could simp at the very top.
Oh, right, yeah.
Talk about simping for rioters. I mean, it's unfortunate when people are killed, whether it's even if they essentially deserved it, as people could say. I think it's unfortunate that people are so moronic to put themselves in situations to be, to attack someone with a gun. I think that was stupid. Bring a skateboard to a gunfight. That was stupid.
So here's the first thing I'll say. The perspective the left has on this is that the skateboard guy sees a dude running on the street with a gun and thinks, "Oh man, I got to stop him." Right?
Have you watched his live stream though?
Oh yeah. Hold on.
Okay,
I'll get you to it. So the left is saying he ran towards the shooter to try and stop him and disarm him. What they don't show you is that earlier in the night, him and Rosenbaum were threatening the kids. They weren't heroically stopping anything. They were literally threatening the kids and
using
invading.
the N-word.
Yeah, screaming the N-word. Both of these guys were doing it. Both of these guys were getting up in their faces. So it wasn't an issue where this guy was like, "I'm going to disarm it." It was an issue of this guy being like, "Now's my chance."
Do you want to know something? A lot of people don't know this from being there. Do you know why this altercation started?
Why?
So everyone leaves this out. I try to tell the New York Times. I don't know. I didn't read the New York Times article. I helped them build the timeline on that night, which I'm really glad. Good.
It's a good timeline.
Well, good. I'm not the only one responsible. A few very good journalists worked with them, but very. It's not perfect, and they didn't listen to everything that we said. But what happened is, and what people miss, and I tried to cover in my show, was that there were the owner of a gas station was guarding his gas station with firearms and with people who were trying to loot it and destroy it. And what happened is that the rioters, who it was already an unlawful assembly, this was, you can say, it wasn't declared a riot, past curfew, everything. They had already started vandalizing, breaking lamp poles, etc. They grabbed 2 or 3 cones, and I have footage of this, and they lit them on fire in the street, which is fine. But this is about 50 feet away from a gas station. So some of these, I don't want to call them vigilantes. They were just people that were young men guarding businesses. because I don't know if they were connected. I don't know if Kyle's group and the other group at the gas station were connected, but I know how the anger started towards these people, right?
They were putting the fires out.
So they put this fire out, but here's where it got really heated. So everyone got mad. And this is when it started being, oh, F-U-N word, blah, 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 going in this direction. So then the rioters take a dumpster and they steal these, those like advertising flags, those tall ones from like a Boost Mobile store.
Yeah.
And they start stuffing them in a dumpster that they took from the side of a residential business, or a residential house next to the gas station. And they light it on fire, and then they pushed the dumpster on fire towards the gas station, which, like, I'm not Einstein, and I don't understand, pyrotechnics like an expert, but I think a dumpster on fire pushed towards a gas station, even though it probably won't light it on fire, it's not a risk I'm willing to take. So
there could be fumes.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I mean,
be gas on the ground.
I just don't. Yeah, I don't want to. It's not a good bet, right? I'm not going. The odds aren't in our favor. So they immediately come over, the groups defending the property, and put out the fire. That's what started the major altercations. Was the fact that they were putting out fires near a gas station is what really escalated the tensions. And people forget that the reason why these people were mad, despite them threatening, was predominantly over putting out fires that could have threatened not only the business, but everyone who was there. So my Twitter at Elijah Schaffer, even easier. It's official slightly offensive on Instagram. It's like, just go back like a week or so, watch the clip. They literally grabbed the dumpster, light on fire. I literally, at the end of the dumpster, I just like deadpan to the right at the gas station. Like, not even commentary. I'm just like, because in the moment I'm going, what? Like,
you think they were trying to do it on purpose?
I hope not. I hope they're just stupid.
They threw fire into the first floor of the condo owned by the
but that
mayor
would
of
have
Portland.
killed us all.
Yeah.
Like, we would have all died.
They cemented the door shut of, I think this was Seattle, the police department.
Yeah.
Cemented it shut and then tried burning the people inside alive.
Doesn't surprise
They're
me.
just bad at it. And they did it with the Portland PD, and Mayor Ted Wheeler said, even though we all don't like this guy, he said it was attempted murder. They barricaded the entrance and exit of the police department in Portland, of one of them, and then tried setting it on fire. There were people inside those buildings. So I would not be surprised if that was intentional. They wanted to set. They said they burned at a gas station in Ferguson.
They burned a gas station.
That was one of the first big moments of the flashpoints in the Ferguson riots. Was they burned down a gas station, and it was owned by an Indian. This is my understanding. That's what I was told by locals. It was owned by an Indian immigrant, and they burned it down because they didn't want foreigners in their neighborhood.
Whoa!
I'm not exaggerating. That's literally we
can I
published
tell you
this on
this?
Vice. It's
Can I
published
tell you
on
this?
Vice.
Is that these people really are, like, I said this. I said I'm not even going to have no sympathy for these individuals who are now deceased because of their criminal backgrounds. I don't think it's a fair argument. I think I mistakenly said that Candace Owens made a similar argument for George Floyd. She didn't. I take that back. So I had wrong information, and I apologize to Candace for saying that. But I will say this: that I don't think, just because you had a bad past, you deserve to die. I think them attacking someone with a gun is what warrants that person to shoot you, whether they're 17. And then people talk about this whole crossing state lines. Well, according to Cassandra Fairbanks and Gateway Pundit, he was there actually.
Well, that's the defense team.
Yeah, was apparently
his legal defense.
lifeguarding. And then people say, he crossed state lines. It's like, dude, so did 2/3. I mean, not state,
right.
but like
100
county.
of those people.
Yeah, so did most of those people. It's not like he's just one guy who like came into a foreign city and was like, stop destroying your city.
But look. He worked there.
That's what I'm saying. He was a part of that city.
And what they're leaving out when they mention this is that Antioch is on the border, literally on the border. You could walk out of your house and cross the state line.
Oh yeah, you get right out of Kenosha. You're right there in Illinois. You're right there.
It's 20 miles away, Antioch from Kenosha.
That's
but
25 minutes driving.
Antioch is on the border. Like, pull up Google Maps, look for Antioch, Illinois, and you'll be like, oh wow, if you live right there, you could walk a minute.
And it's
Wisconsin.
it's farmland, which people don't understand. Very straight roads right out of Kenosha into Illinois, and so you can go very fast. And I did. I'm not going to say how fast, but it's like cornfields and
Legal
stuff.
intimate, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's cornfields. So it's not like this guy, meandered through Gotham and had to cut the throat of Joker to get there, and somehow was the biggest villain of them all. This guy literally could just, it's close enough and a straight shot, literally straight, that it's just like, I could work in Kenosha. I could work right there.
It's normal for them.
I went to Antioch that area to go get food.
Right.
That's like where I was traveling to get food after curfew.
It's like the suburbs.
People don't realize that. It's like, it sounds crazy. It's like because if you say like, oh, he went from Portland, Oregon to Los Angeles. No, this is like he went from Orange County to LA County.
Yeah,
It's
this
just
would be like us hopping up to New York.
Yeah.
Shorter than that.
And it's like,
seriously.
oh, it's so crazy. You went to DC from Virginia or whatever. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
dog, that's like a river.
Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously.
You know,
We'll read some more of the super chats because we've gone a little bit over, but it's cool. Next news says Elijah risks so much to bring us the gritty real news. Thank you for having him on, Tim, for sure. And we have Drew from Lives Matter show
Yes,
tomorrow,
we
right?
do.
So that'll be cool. More conversation about this stuff.
Good week.
Handlebar Fox says maybe Elijah can retire once he takes an arrow to the knee.
hopefully not.
Please don't.
Have Tome says, how much do you know about the rabbit hole that is crime thick, pronounced crime think? I don't know anything about it. Matthew Spillman says, cheers from Austin. Enjoy the Cheez-Its that this pays for. For real, though, I started watching you a few months back, and after seeing you on Rogan, haven't stopped since. Tim, keep at it. Hope the new place is going well. It is going well, but we need fiber optic line laid, and it's very difficult to do because we're in the middle of nowhere. Cody says, just found your old collab with Freedom Tunes. Funny stuff. That was awesome. Seamus is great. And let's read a couple more. Scott S. says, you heard it from Elijah. Ban all skateboarders. They're the real terrorists. Someone go arrest Tony Hawk.
Yep.
I said, no, I'm going to bring this up. Stop calling these people with skateboarders at riots.
Right.
They're
know.
using them. I have so many of them on video. They just use the skateboards to destroy property.
Handy weapon.
They're not skateboarders. That's like someone being like, someone has a hammer breaking out windows and they're being like,
hammerers.
contractor. She's a
Construction worker,
You know,
yeah.
construction worker on the scene. It's like, no, you brought the hammer. It's like, you know, you're not there for good. You're not there to skateboard.
Now, as a skateboarder, I'm allowed to be offended by this.
Skateboarding's not a crime.
That's right.
So there's skateboarders often point out there's really obvious ways to recognize when someone is a skateboarder or not. And just because you have a board and you ride down the street doesn't mean you're a skateboarder. It's a cultural thing. It would be like if you play basketball with your friends, you wouldn't go around saying you're a basketball player.
Or you filmed a video, you're no longer a journalist.
Right.
It's you filmed a video.
Most people, like a lot of people, I don't want to say most, but a lot of people have skateboards. They're not skateboarders. Can they ride the board sometimes? A lot of people do, and they get around with it. I think it's a terrible way to get around. But I'm a skateboarder in the sense that every day I go out for about an hour and a half or 2 hours and I skate, and I know everything about it, and it's part of who I am, and I can speak the language. I can say a bunch of words that would confuse the average person. Like earlier today when I said I did a switch hard flip, I was trying to do a switch hard flip late 180, and I almost accidentally did a switch hard flip late frontside flip. Most people are going to be like, I have no idea what those words are. Like if I said someone did a nollie flip crook, nollie tray out, revert, or I guess it would be a nollie 540 big flip.
A few of your followers are like, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them
Yeah.
are like, dude, that's a crazy
Come
trick.
on, Tim.
Yeah. I used to be pretty good at like nollie flip crook, nollie heel crook, but now I mostly
Hey,
just...
there's a lot of people doing good at crook. You know, there's a lot of crooks out there. I know
Yeah.
the
It's
riots.
true. Many
a lot of
crooks.
skateboarder crooks.
They're gonna be
there's
confused.
there's skateboarding language I can't say because it'll get me banned.
Oh, I understand that. There's a lot of
So-
language I can't say that has nothing to do with skateboarding. That'll get me
Skateboarding.
banned.
So in skateboarding right now, in my backyard, I have a mini ramp. It's called transition skating because it transitions from the ground up, right? Like vert skating is transition. There's don't please nobody say it. We'll get banned.
Don't do it.
There's a word that we use to describe
Is
transition
that like a
skating.
transmission on a car?
It's yes, there is a shortened word,
And it has the first letter of my name
and no, it's
at the end.
it's a short it's a
Yeah.
it's a word that's considered a slur.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
just
you know what
trying
I'm
to
thinking
be.
about?
It ends with a Y.
I know, but I was saying because people just call me E.
Oh yeah.
So I was just saying
yeah.
like, yeah,
Yep,
I
got
know
it.
how it's spelled, but just say it's
So
E.
we've often made
Got
this
it.
joke that like you could be at a skate park and talk about busting fat lines on. I can't even say it. I can't even say it. I can't say it on
Don't do
YouTube.
it.
I can
Oh
say it
my
in private. I
gosh.
can't say it on YouTube.
This is probably why I get so many videos age restricted and demonetized because I'm finding out all these rules I didn't even know.
Surprise.
Well, I play it safe a bit, but there's a word we use for transition skating, which is shortening, which is considered a slur against transgender people. And if you talked about
Everything's a slur against transgender people.
no, but
That's
this is literally like the
kind of legit.
the slur, and everyone knows what it is.
But the transgender people use the phrase, and they're okay if you're friends with them using it. It's actually true.
I mean, but
that's
that's
true.
But that's
Someone made that up. I'm just saying, people make up that people are offended when you usually talk to people. It's people that aren't actually in the group that are the most offended.
They're
oh
offended
sure,
for
but
them.
YouTube's offended.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, people
YouTube
are
will get offended.
offensive.
Yeah, it's true, too.
Being offensive is me. I'm more offended for you than you are for yourself. And if you're not offended, it's because you're self-hating.
Yeah.
That's
right.
it. That's
They
the
gotcha.
doctrine.
Yep.
All right, let's see. I think we got another super chat here. Where did it go? It just disappeared. It vanished. Oh, there it is. Alternative JK says, funny enough, my friends, even my mom, say I sound and talk as fast as you. A close buddy of mine said, my face resembles you if I grow up the facial hair. Only difference is I'm 100% Korean. I should go on your podcast and do a comparison. That'd be interesting.
That'd be great.
Send in a pic.
I talk slow. People have not heard me talk fast. I grew up being told to slow down every single time. It's like, do you know Quicksilver in X-Men?
Oh, I thought you meant the brand. I haven't
No,
heard that brand in a long time.
X-Men characters, super speed.
yeah.
And he talked really, really fast. And he's always got to try and slow everything down to synchronize with the rest of people who don't move as fast as he does. And there's a line where he says, everything he does is painfully slow because he experiences the world in super speed. So everyone's moving really. Could you imagine having to wait an hour to tell someone, like, close the door, and it takes you an hour to do in your mind? Anyway, I talk too fast. That's the point.
Well, it's part and parcel. You have to kind of talk fast. I slow down on purpose, but that's just because I went through a lot of speech pathology as a kid because I had a really bad lisp, and so I have to concentrate to not spit on people and to not have my tongue between my teeth. Real story. So I got to slow down, like when I'm on a show. But other than that, people think I also use drugs because I used to use I used to use Adderall a lot as a teenager, and I lost jaw control. Real side effect.
Wow.
I
Really?
lost,
That's
so my
crazy.
jaw shifts and I have to constantly clench because I permanently lost control of my jaw, and it shifts a lot. And it was a side effect from, I would say, using and abusing a lot of Adderall for a long period of time in development.
I think it's funny when people say that they think I'm on something, and I don't drink, I don't smoke, I take nothing. I drink coffee in the morning. I have I have a coffee energy drink.
The Mormons will be mad.
I know, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Have fun in Salt Lake.
But the secret is to my youthful exuberance and my virility is
Be
exercise.
part Asian?
Yeah, I guess.
sorry, yeah, that's
Be
part
part
of it.
Asian. Yeah.
Also,
But,
probably not drinking alcohol or using drugs.
Yeah.
It's a contributing factor.
Drink more water. I got to do that more often.
Yeah.
I drank this whole water.
Oh, high five.
I drank a beer and a water on
This is
set.
impressive,
And I was
guys.
going to grab something else to drink, but I'm just dry throating it here.
I'm impressed right now.
There you go.
The cat drink out of my water.
So, what's your YouTube channel?
Okay, for
Yeah,
those of
plug
you
it.
guys that are watching, here's my shameless plug. Check out Slightly Offensive, which is just youtube.com/slightly offensive. You can look it up. Unfortunately, we get a lot of problems, but we're still there. We're on every major platform. You can go Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. If you're a boomer, I still love you. I still produce content there for you. Or if you're a young person that stays connected with your grandma and boomers, you might find it there.
There you go.
Yeah, but check out Slightly Offensive. We got a lot of stuff. It's a podcast, street interviews. Like, it's of all variety content. And it actually isn't boring. Like, I really make it an aim to because I have attention to, like, I'm ADHD and I'm like all over the place. So I try to make sure that everything is like pretty succinct. Everything's like under 30 minutes, but usually like 15 to 22 minute podcasts. Everything's like got a lot of pictures and videos and just a lot of things for people that lose attention fast. And you see a lot of firsthand accounts of things exploding and being lit on fire.
Very cool.
And your Twitter?
Oh, my Twitter's at Elijah Schaffer. So unfortunately, you can't verify. It's hard to verify a show page, but you can verify. Go to @Elijah Schaffer. It is very important because you actually will get a lot of news before the news breaks.
Yeah.
Sometimes hours before corporate media gets it, and you'll get a truer story.
Yep, right
Yeah,
on.
that's why I follow you.
Well, thanks for hanging out, man. We're about ready to wind up, so make sure you follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Timcast. There it is. Twitter, Instagram, and Parler. And you can check out my other channels over at youtube.com/TimcastNews and youtube.com/Timcast. And you can also check out at Sour Patch Lids, LYDS. She has been producing.
She's so good. She's so good. You got to follow Lids. Lydia is an incredible, she has a great account. You
Look at
got to
this.
follow her.
There's
Thanks,
37,000 people. You should gain 37,000 followers.
I bet that happens.
Yeah, how is that gonna? You guys got to show the world how powerful Tim Pool's show is. So if you go right now, to Slightly Offensive, this is the second plug.
Yes,
if you go
do
to
it.
Slightly Offensive and you subscribe, and if we get 37,000 people to go over and subscribe, people will know that he's more powerful than the corporate media 100%. Because he
Yeah.
can say, I can speak a name, so have a guest on, and they can increase by thousands of people. Do
I
it for
need-
him.
They're already
I
here.
need but snap my fingers.
Yes.
Do it
Oh.
for him.
For I am the kingmaker.
No, it's
No,
really true. We're
no,
taking out of the
don't.
algorithms. It is hard. This is where the media can't get it. Good media, they can't. Algorithms can't stop good media. And I know even though they've taken me out of the algorithms, by keeping relevant content and fresh content and by going on your show, people's shows, the audience still grows because people, even if the algorithms don't show it to them, thank God for shows like this that still take time to showcase people that the media tries to hide. It really is. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, we're so
Oh yeah,
happy
for
to
sure,
have
man.
you,
We're
dude.
gonna have more people.
Yeah, man.
People who are on the ground and people who've experienced it straight up. I mean, someone asked this. Someone mentioned this in a super chat. One last question. You're a witness, aren't you?
100%.
Yeah. Are they asking you any questions? Are they coming to you?
I mean, my videos are out there. I mean, I have. They can use my video. I think they'll just. I mean, but journalists have called me. I mean, my stuff's. They use my stuff from Washington Post, Fox News, New York Times, etc. I mean, so it's not like even ABC, etc. have used it and asked for timestamps. I mean, they're using it to build the case.
But I'm talking about in like you'll be called by the defense and the prosecution.
I hope.
Because I
hope.
think you were there the whole night. You're a witness. You've got videos of it, and you can explain.
And I have an interview with Kyle.
Exactly.
I have an
Right.
interview earlier in the night. I talked to him.
Yep. We'll see how it plays out, man. Yeah.
We'll see how it plays out, man. I
There you go.
appreciate it.
Anyway, thanks for hanging out, everybody. We will be back tomorrow at 8 p.m. live. If you haven't smashed the like button, you should do so before you go, and we will greatly appreciate it. Otherwise, we will have, other than that, we will have clips up throughout the day tomorrow, and of course, I'll have content on my main channels as per usual, and we are available on all of the traditional podcast platforms, iTunes, Spotify, whatever. But anyway, thanks for hanging out, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Adios.
Bye, guys.